At the entrance to the goblin's forest, a warrior faces a crawling slime. His eyes are focused, his knife flashing forward in a swift motion. The gelatinous creature reacts as the sharp steel approaches its core. With a final pathetic wiggle, the slime senses its imminent demise. The blade plunges deep, ending the creature's simple existence instantly. His practiced strike hits the monster's core with unerring, brutal accuracy. He flicks his knife, slinging the remains of the slime away cleanly. He notes how the acidic fluid has already begun corroding his blade. Unfazed, he calmly invokes his unique skill, restoration, to repair it. In a flash of light, the blade shines restored, as if brand new. He has it, the fluid from the 12th slime for his collection. His senses sharpen. He shouts a warning that someone is approaching. A sudden, powerful blast of magic erupts from the nearby woods. A careless adventurer's magic obliterates the nearby slimes in a flash. He instinctively dodges the blast, his movements a blur of evasion, landing safely. He turns his gaze towards the source of the commotion. The blond man fumes, blaming the old man for messing up his spell. One of the party explains that he always hunts weak slimes here. The leader looks at him with contempt, calling him a mud collector. Toru calmly points out their pristine gear, proof of their cautious hunting. They dismiss him as a waste of time, eager for bigger game. He holds up the small, glowing core he extracted from a slime. He recalls the skill his village gave him 39 years ago. This skill, useless in combat, has restricted him to this forest entrance. His hunt concluded. He approaches the city gate of the town of Dayton. 2 guards stand watch, a familiar sight at the end of his day. The silver-haired guard greets him with his usual sarcastic mockery. He shows his G-rank badge, a familiar ritual for passing through. The guard suggests he should just retire and become a gatekeeper. The guard watches him depart, a faint, condescending smile on his lips. He arrives at the Adventurer's Bureau, his next stop in the routine. He places his meager collection of monster parts on the assessment counter. The young receptionist looks at his haul with open confusion. She asks if he's at the right counter for subjugation turn-ins. The blonde adventurer confirms that mud hunting is technically subjugation. He declares they will be taking the reward for their trouble. The man's hand reaches out to snatch the vials from a counter. With startling speed, Toru slams the man's hand onto the counter. The blonde leader shouts in rage at the sudden, violent response. In a fluid motion, he strikes the bully, his face a cold mask. The blow sends the man crashing unconscious to the guild hall floor. The young receptionist is splattered with slime, calling for the guards. A senior receptionist, Ina, arrives and thanks Toru for his help. Marika protests her innocence, but Anna reminds her to be careful. Toru tells Marika he will handle the mess, reaching for the spill. The black fluid levitates from the counter, stunning Marika into silence. It coalesces and reforms into a perfectly sealed vial on the counter. Anna smiles, unsurprised, while Marika stares, her mind completely blown. His haul earns him a meager 95 pieces of copper. He calmly collects his payment. His business at the guild now finished. His next stop is a familiar butcher shop in the city. The butcher welcomes him, complimenting the clean kill on the mole. They have a standing arrangement. Half the meat for him, half for sale. The butcher hands over the wrapped meat and his payment. He leans in and whispers about a secret bonus from the boss. The apprentice quickly agrees as the boss yells from the back room. Under the crescent moon, Toru walks through the quiet city streets. He turns down a dark alley, a familiar detour on his way home. In a quiet darkness, he crouches and unwraps the secret bundle. Inside the wrapping are several scraps of fresh meat and bone. Drawn by the scent, 2 stray cats emerge from the darkness. They greet him with familiar affection before starting their meal. He watches them for a moment, his hardened gaze softening slightly. From the darkness, he feels the absence of another presence. He notes to himself that the 3rd cat he usually sees is missing, knowing they won't eat while watched. He tells them he is leaving. He walks down the dark alley, leaving the cats to their feast. His final stop for the night is a cozy boarding house. The elven landlady, Ural, welcomes him back as he offers her meat. She thanks them warmly, saying his contributions are always a great help. Alone in his room, he collapses onto his bed, utterly exhausted. He reflects that today was the same as always, and tomorrow will be too. But then his eyes open, a new resolve burning within them. His gaze falls upon the large, unassuming wardrobe in the corner. He sits up, checking the skill point tracker he wears. A look of fierce determination fills his eye. It is time. He rises from a bed, his body filled with a new energy. He has finally gathered enough skill points from his endless subjugations. He walks towards the wardrobe, a heavy key held in his hand. He inserts the key and begins to unlock the heavy doors. With a soft click, the lock disengages the moment finally here. He grips the handles firmly and pulls the heavy doors open. Inside stand a young woman, her eyes vacant, faint scars on her neck. He looks upon her, the reason for his entire life struggle. His memory casts him back 25 long and arduous years. His village was invaded by horrific monsters from the great abyss. The grotesque creatures devoured the villagers one after another in a frenzy. The air was filled with the sounds of screams and panicked breathing. No one was spared from the horrifying, all-consuming tide of monsters. He, Sora, and his grandfather fled toward the hidden escape passage. A shrieking, bird-like monster swooped down from the burning sky. The young Taru bravely leaped forward, drawing the monster's attention. He felt a flash of pride, believing he had saved them. He celebrated his success, but his victory was tragically short-lived. Sora screamed his name, her face a mask of pure terror. A massive mantis monster appeared, its scythe-like claw swinging down. The blade found its mark, slashing deep into the young girl's throat. His grandfather could only watch for a horrifying, helpless instant. He unleashed his ultimate skill, stagnation, freezing time around her. The young Toru could only shiver, frozen by the horrific scene. A desperate cry rings out, insisting that she's not dead yet. The monstrous mantis lies defeated as they flee down the stone path. They reach a medical temple where priests examine the unmoving Sora. The head priest explains that no magic can heal her while time is stopped. If they release the spell, the fatal wound will claim her instantly. A young Toru grits his teeth in utter despair, whispering no. The head priest reveals there may be one last hope to save her. He tells the shocked boy that his own skill, restoration, is the key. Toru argues his skill is useless, only reversing time by 10 seconds. The priest clarifies that leveling the skill will change its power entirely. His own stagnation only unlocked its true power at level 10. Hope dawns on Toru, but the priest warns of a difficult road. He vows to do whatever it takes, beginning a long path of suffering. Lacking combat skills, he could only flee, unable to earn points. A sympathetic gatekeeper finally took pity and taught him how to fight. He began his long, solitary journey as a hunter of the weakest monsters. He watched countless others easily earn points in parties with veteran guides. By age 30, he had mastered the arts of evasion and counterattack. The years passed in a blur of endless, thankless combat. He saved a child during an attack, losing his left-hand strength. The injury made his already difficult quest to level up even harder. Despite his efforts, there is no guarantee his wish would be granted. Even so, Toru worked tirelessly, never giving up his singular goal. He held on to his unwavering resolve through the long, difficult years. His focus remained singular. He needed to raise his level first. Back in the present, he sits up on his simple bed. His eyes gleam with the culmination of a 25-year effort. The metaphysical skill tree, his soul's potential, appears before him. Every soul is born with this tree, its branches holding miraculous skills. The pool water jug holds the 10,000 skill points he painstakingly gathered. With a splash, he pours the accumulated points onto the tree. A brilliant light surges up the branch, channeling immense power. The flower bud, long dormant at level 9, begins to swell. It blossoms into a magnificent level 10 flower, its power transformed. The skill now affects targets involved in battles. A crucial change. He whispers the word, understanding the profound implication of the change. He realizes the restriction has evolved from items to all targets. He clenches his fist, ready to test his newfound power. He recalls the priest's words about unlocking his skill's true potential. His grandfather's ashes and a lingering stagnation skill remained. He opens the urn containing his grandfather's remains. He holds the ashes in his gloved hand, preparing to cast. With intense focus, he unleashes the full power of restoration. The ashes in his palm glow with a faint ethereal light. He confirms his suspicion. Even gods cannot return a departed soul. Next, he turns his attention to his crippled left hand. A vision of the moment he was injured flashes through his mind. He wonders why he is seeing a vision of his past injury. He realizes a new fruit has appeared on his skill tree. The fruit grants him time continuum perception, the ability to see the past. His hand is enveloped in a swirl of restorative energy. He looks down, feeling the power course through his healed hand. He can feel blood flowing through it for the first time in years. Overwhelmed with emotion, he clutches his fully restored hand. He realizes he can activate the skill through his gloves. A look of grim determination crosses his face. His final test awaits. He kneels before Sora, still frozen in time within the wardrobe. With his heart pounding, he prays that this will finally work. He focuses his will and casts the ultimate restoration. A swirl of memories from her past flashes before his eyes. For a long moment, Sora remains perfectly still, her eyes vacant. He watches with bated breath, fearing that it has failed. Then her lips twitch, a faint sign of life returning. His eyes widen in shock and dawning hope. Her eyes slowly flutter open, seeing the world for the first time. She asks if this is the afterlife. He tells her it's a closet. She steps out of the wardrobe, looking around the small room. She asks if he needs an explanation, and he eagerly agrees. He explains her grandfather's sacrifice and his long quest to save her. He worries that the woman before him does not recognize him. He knows even if he rejuvenates his body, he is an old man inside. She asked him about another one who was with her. She asks if there was another boy there when she was frozen. Toru's expression remains stoic as his heart sinks. He tells her he hasn't heard of anyone else. He accepts the situation, scratching his chin in thought. Sora suddenly looks up, a spark of recognition in her eyes. She points out his old habit of scratching his chin. She cries out a childhood nickname and leaps into his arms. He asked how long she knew. She says it was from the start. She insists that it's true, her eyes sincere. She knew of a skill because she knew of her grandfather's. She thanks him, saddened by the lost time and his grandfather's death. He stroked her hair, thankful that she is finally alive. He holds her close, a 25-year burden finally lifted. She remarks how he's outgrown her. He wryly agrees. He's an old man. She tells him she was surprised by how cool he became. He smiles, dismissing her compliment as just her imagination. He changes the subject, asking if she is hungry. But the exhaustion is finally caught up to her, and she's asleep. He looks down at her with a gentle, peaceful expression. He holds her in his arms, his long quest finally complete. The new day begins at Ural's house boarding house. Sora wakes up, finding herself beside the sleeping Taru. They share a quiet moment as a new life begins. His eyes, once weary, now hold a new-found peace. She touches her neck, the phantom of her old wound a distant memory. Chapter 2 begins. Their shared determination now set on the future. He leans in close, his face just inches from hers. He gently examines her neck, confirming that she is finally healed. Sora announces that the landlady has prepared breakfast for them. She peeks through the doorway, informing the landlady that Toru is awake. A delicious-looking breakfast is laid out on the table for them. Sora exclaims with childlike wonder that this is her first meal in 25 years. Toru chuckles, telling Sora that is certainly an amusing thing to say. He apologizes to the landlady Ural for the sudden guest. Ural waves off his apology, happy to support a new adventurer. Toru quietly considers the phrase new adventure as Sora begins to eat. Sora suddenly asks if she too can become an adventurer. He warns her that it is a tough job. Now she imagines. She insists that is precisely why she wants his help. She declares her intention with a bright, determined smile. Sora takes a bite of meat and exclaims that it is delicious. Ural explains that it is the mole's meat Teru brought them. Toru reflects on his desire to shield Sora from their traumatic past. He wonders if perhaps he is just getting old and overprotective. He realizes that for Sora, every new experience is a precious thing. He agrees to register her at the guild after they finish their meal. He then turns to the landlady with a request. He asks if she might be able to lend Sora some armor. Ural worries that her old gear and used for so long might not be suitable. Toru assures her that he can take care of its condition. Ural returns with the armor, noting the robe is yellowed and the breastplate is rusty. Toru thanks her and takes the bundle, placing his hand upon it. With a focused gaze, he quietly invokes his powerful skill. Restoration. A flash of light reveals the armor in its former glory before it is renewed. Uro can only stare, her mouth agape in utter disbelief. She asks what just happened, completely stunned by the magical transformation. Teru simply explains it was a skill apologizing for surprising her. Sora twirls in delight, her new white and gold armor fitting her perfectly. Ural smiles, remarking that it looks as if it were made for Sora. Sora cheerfully announces that they are leaving, ready for their new life. They walk through this bustling main street of the border town Dayton. Sora takes in the sights of the market, including meat hanging at a butcher stall. She sees a fruit vendor hawking his colorful wares to the passing crowds. Overwhelmed by the activity, she asks if there is a festival happening. Toru calmly explains that this is just a normal day in the busy town. As they near the guild, he tells her to go inside by herself. She asked why he can't come with her. Her expression confused. He explains he will watch from a distance, so no one gets suspicious. Sora looks at him for a moment, a thoughtful expression on her face. She suddenly crouches down, clutching her stomach and feigning terrible pain. With a sly glance, she says she will feel better if he takes her inside. Toru sees right through her act, his face a mask of weary resignation. He mutters to himself as passers-by stare at the unfolding drama. Sighing, he decides he will just have to make himself look younger for a bit. Sora immediately pops up, telling him he doesn't have to change his look. By a fountain, she asks if he did something wrong, and he explains his poor reputation. He admits that being an old, low-ranked adventurer is not a position to be proud of. Sora passionately declares that she is proud of him. She explains that she asked their landlady how hard his life has been. She insists that no normal person could endure 25 years of hardship. He asks if she feels that way, even though he's an old man. She tells him it's okay because to her, he is a cool old man. Her heartfelt words of validation clearly move him. Their conversation finished. They finally head toward the Adventurers Guild. Inside, a large contact board is covered in written party requests. Sora asks what the board is for, and Toru explains its purpose. She finds it interesting and asks if he has ever written anything on it. He replies grimly that he has never needed to. The three drunken adventurers from the previous day watch them from table. They smirk as Toru and Sora approach the registration counter. The senior receptionist, Ina, greets Toru, surprised to see him again so soon. Sora cheerfully introduces herself, explaining that she is not yet an adventurer. Anna politely asks what their relationship is to one another. Toru quickly covers Sora's mouth, claiming they're engaged to be married. Ina reviews the registration form, confirming Sora's age is 17. She then presents a crystal orb, the soul analyzer, to examine Sora's skills. Sora places her hand on the smooth surface of the magical device. She and Toru watch as the orb begins to glow with a soft light. The surface of the crystal ripples as it reads her innate potential. Toru reflects that his own perception skill provides much greater detail. He sees a vision of her skill tree, a single branch for her reversibility. A text box details the skill's properties. It can reverse an attack's effect. Ina is impressed, noting that she has never seen this magic skill before. Sora explains that it can bounce back any attack aimed at her. She adds it will not work if the attack is too fast. A flashback shows the horrifying mantis monster that nearly killed her. Toru listens to her explanation, his expression unreadable. The process is complete, and Sora receives her new Shining Adventures badge. She holds it up next to Toru's, delighted that they are now matching. A slow, mocking clap interrupts their happy moment. The drunken adventurers congratulate her, saying they're looking for a female magician. One of them crudely suggests she ditched the old man and joined their party. The blonde leader yells that no one was speaking to the old fart. He stumbles forward drunkenly, trying to get closer to Sora. Toru calmly intercepts him, placing a gloved hand on his shoulder. The man's eyes go blank as he immediately collapses to the floor. His companions demand to know what Toru did to their friend. With cold efficiency, Toru touches the other two and they drop to the ground. A close-up shows his gloved hand, the subtle conduit of his power. He calmly tells a shocked Sora that he restored them to being dead drunk. As they leave the city, Toru asks Sora if she's all right. He warns her that from now on, she will have to face more people like them. Sora is undeterred, saying she's just happy to walk with him again. She playfully asks him what his dream is, promising to help him. He admits that after 25 years, he would like to go somewhere far away. She asks if he has regrets, but he immediately says no way. He declares with a confident smile that he still wants to keep adventuring. Sora's face lights up as she agrees they should adventure together. A horn mole erupts from the earth, sending rocks and dust flying. Sora asks if it fled, but Toru tells her to use her skill next time. The mole recovers and charges at them again, its horn lowered. With new resolve, Sora declares that she will catch it this time. Toru powerfully bats the charging creature into the air with his sword. The mole squeals in pain as it is sent tumbling through the air. Toru and Sora watch as the beast flies helplessly above them. From Sora's perspective, the mole hangs suspended at the peak of its arc. She unleashes her skill, reverse, blasting the mole with dark energy. The creature crashes to the ground, its body mangled by the powerful magic. Toru observes the ruined corpse. Noting the horn is gone from the overkill, Sora apologizes for her excessive force, but Toru says he can handle it. He places a hand on a mangled body and activates his restoration skill. With a magical sparkle, the mole's body is returned to its pristine state. Sora asks if he revived it, but he can only restore the physical body. He gathers the shattered pieces of the creature's once mighty horn. Using restoration again, he makes the broken horn whole and perfect. Sora calls him sly as he carefully fits the restored horn back into place. He says their family has grown, so he must increase their income. As they walk, Sora marvels at Toru's incredible speed and agility. She realizes this is why he was touching his body earlier. The thought makes her blush as she looks at her companion. A vision shows a new branch growing on a metaphysical skill tree. A text box explains the new ability, spatial perception. Toru realizes her uncanny tracking of the mole was this new skill. Sora hums contentedly, unaware of her newly awakened power. To test her, Toru walks a few steps ahead and stops. He asks what he is doing, and she correctly identifies his chin-scratching habit. He continues scratching his chin, confirming her uncanny perception. He reflects that hunts that took 20 minutes now take only 3. He declares they can venture deeper into the forest sooner than he thought. The pair takes a break, sitting together on a log in a forest clearing. Sora presents their simple lunch, dried meat, cheese, and biscuits. She takes a large, happy bite of the dried meat. Her expression quickly sours as the intense flavor hits her. She cries out that the meat is incredibly salty. Toru watches her reaction with a knowing, amused smile. He demonstrates the proper way, slicing the meat thinly with his knife. He explains how to wrap it around cheese and a biscuit before eating. They both enjoy the meal, finding the new combination delicious. Toru quizzes Sora on what she noticed about their surroundings. He praises her for paying close attention to the details of the forest. He explains the outskirts of the goblin's forest are a logging area. Sora asks if that makes them cleaners. He says exterminators is more accurate. She asks how many skill points he has, guessing here in 3. He clarifies they only gained 1 point in total, leaving Sora shocked. He explains points are divided among participants, making it a hard life. The reality of his 25-year solo grind for her sake hits Sora. Overcome with emotion, she throws her arms around him, calling him cool. He tells her this is why he wants to go deeper into the forest today. He declares their next target, the goblins that gave the forest its name. The two adventurers walk together into the denser, more ancient woods. A sudden rustling sound from the nearby bushes startles Sora. Toru is also on high alert. His sense is sharp and ready. He warns her to stay focused as goblins hunt in groups. A goblin lets out a piercing shriek as it emerges from the undergrowth. A muscular goblin charges forward, wielding a crude wooden club. Another goblin lunges from the side, its sharp claws outstretched. A third leaps into the air, aiming to attack from above. Toru moves in a blur, weaving between the goblin attackers. He parries a blow with the flat of his sword, his expression calm. He uses one goblin's back as a springboard to kick another away. He throws a rock with pinpoint accuracy, kicking up dust to distract them. The rock blinds one goblin, as another lies defeated in the background. He strikes another goblin with the pommel of his sword. The blow lands squarely in the creature's eye, spraying dark blood. The blinded goblin stumbles as another leaps over its fallen comrade. Toru orders the leaping goblin to jump towards him. He uses the goblin's own momentum, vaulting off its back. The final goblin is dispatched with a swift kick to the head. Sora exhales in relief, amazed by the swift, efficient battle. She remarks on how ugly the defeated goblins look up close. Toru begins his lesson, telling her to start with the right ear. He shows her how to slice it off as proof of subjugation. Next, he instructs her to feel for something hard below the jaw. Sora follows his instructions, her fingers probing the goblin's neck. She pulls out a glittering crystal, the goblin seed or mana stone. The trading of these stones is a pillar of the border town's economy. Sora asks if they'll take the meat, but Toru intends to hunt more. He explains that no one buys humanoid meat as it's unappetizing. Sora finds this a little wasteful, drooling slightly at the thought. At dusk, they arrive back at the towering stone walls of Dayton. Sora hums happily about their big catch as they approach the gate. Gatekeeper Carlos greets them with his usual mockery for the old man. Sora cheerfully wishes him a good evening, thanking him for his hard work. A flustered Carlos asks Toru who the girl is, calling it a coincidence. Sora thanks Carlos again for always taking care of Toru. Carlos shouts in disbelief, wondering when old men became so popular. He demands Toru say something, but his partner, Riken, remains silent. Carlos asks Riken why he looks so stiff, but gets no real answer. Toru tells Sora to get their hull assessed while he goes to the butcher. Inside the guild, Sora is surprised by how crowded the hall is. She overhears an adventurer talking about a recent difficult battle. A female adventurer praises a spiky-haired young man for saving her. He boasts, but his friend retorts it was his fault for running ahead. Sora watches the typical rookie bravado with a neutral expression. The spiky-haired adventurer, Hink spots Sora and thinks she's extremely cute. His companions tease him, noting that he never changes his ways. Hink approaches Sora, assuming she's a seasoned adventurer. Learning. It's her first day. He eagerly invites her to join their party. Hink's short-hair companion questions his sudden invitation to Sora. An aggressive Hank tells Toru not to cut, while Toru asks Sora if she's done. Hing's shock deepens as his party member warmly welcomes Teru. With quiet confidence, Toru informs the group that he is with Sora. Pink's party can only stare dumbfounded as Toru and Sora pass them. The receptionist asks Sora about her first day, and she cheerfully replies she liked it. A massive pile of goblin ears is presented as the result of their day's hunt. The rival party lets out a collective gasp of utter disbelief at the sight. The receptionist tallies their incredible haul, including 57 valuable goblin mana stones. As they leave, the awestruck girl asks Toru to share his goblin slang secrets. Hink's party watches them go as the receptionist calls for the next adventurer. The party presents their own pathetic haul, the subjugation of only 4 goblins. The chapter concludes with a triumphant Toru and Sora standing before the guild. A new chapter opens with Toru in the forest, shouting a warning to Sora. A title card declares that after 25 years, Toru is now the strongest adventurer. A flashback shows Toru and Sora in the forest, with Toru dispatching a goblin. Toru swiftly strikes another goblin down as Sora watches from behind him. With brutal efficiency, he snaps a goblin's neck, his expression grim. Sora watches the carnage unfold, breathing heavily as she takes in the scene. Since their first day, they have focused on hunting goblins, increasing their hull. Sora points to a plant, asking if it's the bitter grass Toru mentioned. He confirms it is a valuable ingredient for blood-stopping ointment. He instructs her to cut the stem so the plant can regrow in 3 days. The sound of a crunch echoes as he explains the harvesting season is short. As they approach the city walls, an ominous presence appears before them. A group of soldiers, led by a stern man, blocks their path at the gate. The high-ranking adventurer stares intently as Toru and Sora walk past him. Sora happily comments on their good haul for the day, and Toru agrees. He grimly notes that their success was bound to attract unwanted attention. They're confronted by the stern, barrank adventurer and his 3 subordinates. Toru and Sora look on seriously as the powerful adventurer approaches them. A close-up reveals the man's silver adventurer plate, signifying his B-rank status. The B-rank adventurer, Russell, asks if Toru is the one he's looking for. Back at the gate, Carlos realizes with anger that his partner Riken reported to Rue. Russell accuses Toru of improperly using a rookie adventurer as her guide. Sora looks worried, but Toru calmly reassures her that it will be over soon. Russell and his men lead the pair away as Carlos watches from a gate. Carlos confronts Riken, furious that he went to the security department. Riken retorts that Carlos should show him proper respect as he is his senior. He defends his actions, stating that Toru was in clear violation of guild rules. Carlos angrily argues that Riken is the one who should be beneath him. Riken punches Carlos, yelling that Toru has worked hard his entire life. The punch lands solidly as Riken vents his frustration over Carlos's jealousy. Carlos sweats, taken aback by the intensity of his partner's anger. He scoffs, retorting that no matter how hard Toru works, he's at the bottom. Riken reminds him that Carlos himself has told Toru to retire many times. Carlos admits he only says that because he knows the stubborn man will never quit. He asked why Riken cares so much, but his partner turns away, refusing to answer. Carlos presses the issue, finding it strange that Riken cares so much. A flashback shows a younger Riken, lost and confused as a new adventurer. The memory reveals that Toru had helped him when he was just a beginner. Riken grumbles about the security department sending a B rank for a guidance matter. Toru and Sora stand stoically, surrounded by Russell and his men. They're brought to a large, ornate training ground outside the city. Russell explains the purpose of the arena as they walk onto the platform. Sora asks what the place is, and Toru explains it's a pseudo-miasma formation. This environment allows skills normally used on monsters to be used on people. Russell pulls a training sword from a rack with a loud rattle. He stands ready, his blade held confidently at his side, ready for battle. Before they begin, Toru asks Russell if he can hear him out. He explains that he is not using Sora, but helping her become an adventurer. Russell issues a challenge. They must prove their ability by fighting him. Toru's sighs and resignation. Accepting the duel, he cannot avoid. He asks to borrow a sword, and Russell tells him to do whatever he wants. Toru inspects several swords from the rack, but finds none of them suitable. Russell grows impatient, telling him to hurry up and stop being so picky. He hands Toru a wooden sword, mocking him for trying to imitate a real warrior. Toru takes the simple wooden sword, his expression calm and unreadable. After a moment, he remarks that he can swing this one just fine. Russell grits his teeth, annoyed by Toru's unshakable confidence. The two opponents face each other across the wide training arena. One of Russell's men shouts for the match to begin as Sora watches intently. Russell immediately leaps into action, his sword held high, ready to strike. His men note that he has activated his full spirit ability from the start. He declares his intention to end the fight in a single decisive blow. Toru calmly tells Sora to watch closely, surprising Russell with his audacity. Russell is enraged that a G rank would dare to face him, a B rank alone. He clenches his teeth in fury, preparing to charge his opponent. He screams in rage at the sheer audacity of a G rank like Toru. As he swings, he realizes with horror that he cannot use his martial arts skills. Toru watches him calmly, his eyes narrowed in absolute concentration. He effortlessly parries Russell's clumsy, telegraphed attack with a wooden sword. With a swift motion, he disarms the Buranker, sending his sword flying. Toru slams a powerful punch into Russell's gut, knocking the wind out of him. Russell gasps in pain, collapsing to his knees, defeated in an instant. This subordinate can only cry out his name in shock and disbelief. Toru places a hand on his shoulder, declares the match over, and turns to leave. He tells Sora it's time to go, leaving the defeated Buranker behind. Russell, still on his knees, looks up in shock as he feels his power return. He realizes with a jolt that his fighting spirit is back. Fueled by humiliation, he unleashes his ultimate attack, Raging Fire Strike. Toru shouts a warning to Sora as a massive wave of fire erupts. A fiery phoenix manifests, but it turns inward, engulfing Russell himself. Russell screams in agony as he is consumed by his own uncontrolled power. His men panic, screaming for water as Toru and Sora look on him passively. Later that evening, Sora asked Toru what he did during the fight. Toru feigns ignorance, simply sing as Sora enjoys some dango. Sora recalls Russell's surprise when his sword failed to ignite with fire. She also notes that Toru's attitude during the fight was deliberately provocative. Toru finally reveals his trick. He used restoration on Russell's skill tree. He explains that seeing her skill tree gave him an inspiration for his own skill development. In his mind, he tried shortening his restoration branch and the skill points splashed back into his spiritual reservoir. Sora asks if he can restore and extend branches at will, and he confirms it's possible. However, he tells the dango-eating Sora that there is a significant problem with this ability. With a grave expression, Toru reveals the critical flaw. Their skill trees have only one branch. The revelation crushes Sora, who slumps in disappointment, while Toru remains stoic. Sora realizes he made Russell angry on purpose to distract him from the trick he was playing. Toru explains he sealed Russell's martial arts skills upon handing him the sword, then restored them with a touch. The half-moon hangs in the night sky, illuminating the tops of the forest trees. Walking down the road towards the city, Sora worries about what will happen if they are confronted again. Toru reassures her that their increased hunting success was the real reason, and slowing down will help. He explains that in the adventurer's world, a strong reputation is the best defense against troublemakers. Sora panics, pleading for him to stop fearing that if he becomes famous, other women will pursue him. Ignoring her plea, Toru says he has an idea of who sent the B-rank adventurer after them. As they walk, he reveals his suspicion that it was a woman, and that he must go speak with her. Toru strides down a bustling city alleyway at night, his destination a lively tavern. Inside, a band of minstrels plays an upbeat tune on their instruments for the patrons. The tavern is filled with the hearty laughter of adventurers enjoying their evening. A lantern illuminates the sign hanging outside the establishment tavern choice bar. Toru pushes the door open with a resonant clang, his expression set with determination. The chapter begins, showing a bar filled with formidable-looking adventurers, including several familiar faces. Stratia, a woman with an eye patch, and Anessa, a dark-skinned man, greet Toru warmly. Toru smoothly compliments Nanessa's beauty, placing a familiar hand on his shoulder. A close-up shows a faint, jagged scar on Inez's collarbone beneath his pendant. The scar is clearly visible on Inez's neck as he holds his drink, listening to Toru. Stratia, of the A-ranked party Platinum Flame, playfully teases Toru for being a love hunter. Toru wonders aloud why the top two members of Platinum Flame are still in such a place. Nanessa reminds him that they are close, having all learned from the same master. A massive, frothing barrel of beer is presented with a triumphant flourish. Toru orders a round of potatoes and sausages from the gruff, imposing bartender. A steaming bowl filled with freshly cooked potatoes and sausages is ready to be served. Toru takes a long, satisfying drink from his large, heavy wooden mug of beer. He compliments the bartender, Choi, telling him the food is as delicious as always. A bald man with a magnificent beard, Dayton, warns Toru that his current methods won't last long. Stratia whispers to Inessa that it appears their master is angry with Toru. Dayton looks down, his expression stern and deeply serious as he considers his words. Dayton, the director of the Adventure Bureau, lectures Toru about using his money wisely. Vice Director Saku confronts Dayton about the Bureau's dire financial situation. Dayton admits they're out of money, pinning his hopes on a new strategy to attract high rankers. Toru, overhearing, asks Nanesa to explain what this strategy entails. Stratia cryptically explains that it is time to shine a light upon the fallen ruins. Confused by her poetic language, Toru asks Nanesa for a straightforward interpretation. Nanesa clarifies that a mission to recapture the fallen northern district of Basalia is set for tomorrow. Toru now understands why the Bureau was so crowded with high-ranking adventurers that morning. Dayton scoffs at his own plan, admitting that he cannot rely on such a gamble. Saku states that while he welcomes new talent, there is an important condition. His eyes narrow as he insists that talent must be paired with an excellent user. Dayton confesses to Toru that he was the one who instigated the fight with him. He impatiently demands that Toru respond, telling him this is why he came to the bar. Saku coldly orders Toru to release the girl with a rare reversal skill from his party. Toru calmly meets his gaze, asking them not to meddle with his party from now on. Saku dismisses the request, declaring that talent should not be wasted on the useless. Eustrasia gently chides Saku, telling him his words are too harsh. Saku's eyes suddenly widen in shock as he notices something about Nanesa. He points, demanding to know what happened to the prominent wound on Inessa's neck. Nanesa stands stunned, his hand hovering over his now perfectly smooth, unscarred skin. He touches his neck in utter disbelief, wondering how the old wound could have vanished. Stratia watches the scene unfold, her expression thoughtful and calculating. Toru takes a quiet sip of his drink, seemingly unfazed by the commotion. Stratia offers to use her magical eye to investigate the miraculous healing. She dramatically lifts her eye patch, preparing to show off her special technique. A close-up shows a revealed eye as she focuses on Vanessa while Toru looks on. Toru calmly interrupts the theatrics, admitting that he was the one who healed the scar. Stratia smacks Nanesa's head, laughing that Toru confessed so quickly. Nanesa, still confused, asks Toru to explain what he means. Toru reveals that his restoration skill is now powerful enough to heal even old wounds, overcome with emotion. Nanesa thanks Toru profusely for the incredible gift. Saku, intrigued, asks what other things Toru's newly empowered skill can do. The B-rank adventurer, Russell, storms in, vowing that he will take the director's seat from Dayton. Toru ignores the outburst, calmly ordering more turnip, striped meat, and another beer. Dayton yells at Toru, demanding to know what happened to their important discussion. Both Russell and Dayton stare in shock at something happening just off-panel. A large pot of stew bubbles and boils furiously over the fire. The entire bar, including Stratia, Nensa, and Choi, stares at Dayton in stunned silence. Saku concedes that restoration is a wonderful skill, depending on how it's used. Dayton, confused and alarmed, asked what he did and what is suddenly happening. Nanesa tells the director to look at his head as Dayton yells in confusion. Clutching his face, Dayton realizes with horror that his magnificent hair and beard are gone. As he demands to know how it was possible, Toru calmly says he just made him look younger. Dayton erupts in a furious roar, shouting that Toru has truly been raising that useless skill. Russell declares Toru's only competence is shutting people up, and they should be locked away. He worries aloud that if this power becomes known, priests will come begging for their hair back. Dayton theatrically proclaims he will keep his cute favorite disciple locked in his own house. Stratia jokes that his retirement plan is settled, so they should enjoy this farewell party. So, cutting through the chaos, Toru announces that he has two conditions for them. He demands non-interference with his party and the elimination of anyone who does interfere. Sako, swirling a goblet, asks what reward they would receive for agreeing to such terms. Toru pauses for a moment, considering his answer as Stratia and Nanesa look on. He declares that if they give him half a year, he will reach their A-rank position. Stratia smiles, intrigued by his audacious claim, while Nanessa remains impassive. Sokka dismisses it as big talk, offering a faster path if Toru hands over his partner. Nanessa tells Toru it's impossible as he lacks the knack for nurturing others' talent. He reminds him that for the past 10 years, Platinum Flame has been the only S-rank party. Dayton lets out a booming laugh, delighted by Toru's boldness, and urges him to say more. He complains that this current director has created a system that encourages early retirement. Toru states plainly that he isn't there to make a fuss, but to continue his work. Dayton's expression softens, and he offers Toru a place by his side, noting his lack of greed. He asks how long Toru plans to keep going, sensing his deep desire to remain an adventurer. Toru declares his wish to one day reach the same legendary height as Daiden and Saku. His ultimate goal is revealed, to seal the Great Miasma whole and earn the title of Great Hero. A grand vision unfolds of a figure being bestowed the legendary title of Great Hero. Stratya likes his bold declaration, while Nanessa salutes, anticipating Toru's success. The three adventurers, Toru, Stratya, and Nanessa, clink their glasses together in a toast. Choi tells Toru to adventure freely, promising he will handle any troubles that arise. With his hands steepled, Choi watches Toru with a serious, calculating expression. He reflects that Toru is still hiding his true power, a dangerous man to have around. Choi formally accepts Toru's conditions, agreeing to keep his subordinates in line. He adds a condition of his own, demanding updates on Toru's future progress. Toru expresses his satisfaction that they have accepted his proposal. He places a single coin on the table to pay for his drink. With business concluded, Toru excuses himself, ignoring Choi's plea for old stories. The tavern door clangs shut as a voice from inside wishes him well. Toru steps out from the tavern's warm light into the darkness of the night. Russell asks if it's wise to let him go, but Choi calls Toru an obstinate man. Choi trails off, a strange, thoughtful expression crossing his face. He laments that with his newly bald head, he won't be able to go home. The next day, the massive bodies of two giant caterpillars are bound with thick rope. At the butcher's shop, Toru gives precise instructions on how to prepare the meat. Sora is ready for a feast, but Toru says he has a detour to make first. He smiles, saying he has plenty of meat for them, who will be delighted. Their detour leads to a dilapidated alleyway, beginning a new chapter. Sora calls his name, but Toru simply reassures her that everything is fine. He places a large, cloth-wrapped slab of fresh meat on a cracked ground. Two stray cats, one black and white and one tabby, emerge from the shadows. They immediately begin to feast on the generous offering of meat. Toru looks down at the cats, offering a soft apology for being late. Sora realizes with a smile that the cats were the they he had mentioned. She tries to pet one, but Toru warns her they hate being touched while eating. But the cat seems perfectly happy, much to Toru's complete surprise. He comically laments the half-year he spent patiently earning their trust. Sora nuzzles the purring cats, joking that they look quite delicious. A small, indignant voice suddenly speaks from the shadows nearby. It declares that the scrawny stuff they are eating isn't delicious at all. Sora is startled, feeling a strange new presence watching them. She tells Toru they're being spied on, finding the situation interesting. Toru watches as Sora announces that she has caught something. Sora emerges from the ruins holding the hand of a small feral child. Toru stares in stunned silence, his mouth slightly agape in shock. He realizes with a jolt that this must be the third cat he was missing. The child, Moo, defiantly says she isn't delicious, her stomach rumbling loudly. Moo looks hungrily at the meat as the cat hiss protectively over it. She lunges for the food, startling both Sora and the cats. Toru scoops her up, asking if she's been surviving on cat food. He looks at the small, fierce child and asks where parents are. He thinks to himself that he can't deal with every homeless child he finds. Sora looks at him with a sad, pleading expression on her face. Toru's resolve crumbles as he looks in his Sora's pleading eyes. He sighs in defeat, deciding they must ask the landlady for help. Sora tries to befriend the child, offering her more delicious food. She introduces herself in Toru, asking Moo to call her Sora Nachan. The child, Moo, repeats the name, pointing directly at Sora. She then points at Toru, calling him Tushan, much to his annoyance. Moo ignores his correction, perching on his back and declaring that she is hungry. They arrive back in the boarding house, where Ural welcomes them. Uro remarks on their cute evening guests as Toru carries Moo inside. He asked if they can look after him for a little while. Uriel happily agrees, saying it's a great help and offers to warm the bath. The Moo asked where the food is, but Toru says they must clean her first. In the bath, Toru is surprised to discover that Moo is a girl. Sora asks to use restoration, but Toru says Moo's skill tree records are blank. Moo, seeing their determination, agrees to do her best to get clean. She laughs, exclaiming that the soap bubbles tickle as they wash her. Sora holds the giggling child still while Toru scrubs her back. Toru notes that strangely Moo has no fleas, just like the cats. He's also curious about the faint old scratch marks covering her body. After the bath, Sora comments on Moo's cute violet eyes. Toru realizes this is a characteristic of the Purple Eye tribe. He holds up a lantern, telling them to look closely at her eyes. In a light, Moo's pupil contracts into a sharp vertical slit. Toru explains this gives her people excellent night vision in dark places. Ural offers Musim old clothes, calling her by the name Umuchan. Toru explains that the Purple Eye tribe often uses repeated syllables and names. He elaborates on the specific naming conventions for males and females of the tribe. This is done to receive the blessing of their patron god, Jijiro-sama. Moo, now clean and dressed, asks Toru how she looks in the new clothes. She smiles sweetly, looking like a completely different happy child. A grand feast is laid out on the table for their new guest. Sora jokes about her exhaustion as Ural wishes them all bon appetit. Mew looks at the food with wide, disbelieving eyes, asking if she can eat. Toru gives her a gentle, reassuring smile in response. Mew tears into a roasted chicken leg with unrestrained, ravenous hunger. After, she exclaims how yummy it is, and Toru reminds her to chew properly. Sora agrees that the thigh meat is the best, eating with equal gusto, her mouth full. She excitedly plans their hunt for the next day. Toru watches them eat, a quiet, contemplative look on his face. Ural sips or drink, thinking Toru should have met these kids earlier. Ural asks Sora if there is a problem, noticing her thoughtful expression. Sora says she just noticed that the landlady's ears are quite long. Ural smiles, confirming she is from the Ashton Ear tribe of another country. Toru jokes that their ears are long to better hear the snowscape. Ural corrects him, saying it is to hear the teachings of the ice god. Sora admits she knows nothing of other countries, having grown up in the countryside. Uro begins to tell a story of a great technologically advanced country. Sora, eager to learn, asks Ural the teacher more about the world. Ural explains this country collapsed overnight, swallowed by a massive hole. She holds her goblet, her gaze distant as she recounts the ancient tale. The fleeing refugees scattered to the frontier regions, bringing endless chaos. Eventually, people blessed by the 6 great gods appeared in various places. A map shows the continent with a greater base at its center. Ural explains that the central nation is now jointly governed by these 6 powers. At the dinner table, Ural playfully asks Mr. Daddy what his plans are for Moo. Toru explains that at first he was just going to feed her and then send her away. But he decides to look after her, recalling another person who had the same purple eyes. Seeing his change of heart, Ural offers a warm and knowing smile. The meal continues with Ural kindly pouring Toru a drink. The next day begins under the light of a sharp crescent moon. They arrive at a building with a large sign, the local armor shop. The mustachioed owner, Ramu, greets Toru, asking what brings him here after so long. With Moo perched on his shoulders, Toru says he has come to place an order. Ramu complains that adventurers always bring in their gear after neglecting it. He compliments Toru, however, on always keeping his equipment in first-class condition. Leaning in close, Ramu confirms that Teru really came to order something new. Toru explains that he urgently needs a new pair of shoes for the child. He instructs his companions to greet the owner, noting his skill despite his intimidating look. Sora's cheerful introduction as his wife-to-be leaves the gruff armorer completely stunned. Ramu is left speechless, stroking his chin as he tries to process the situation. He calls Moo over to measure her feet, and Sora clarifies that she is a girl. With chalk, the craftsman carefully traces the outline of Moose's small foot. They discuss the details of the shoes, which Toru wants to be soft as a cat's paw. Ramo grumbles, but agrees to use a light material for the custom order. Toru then asks about a hippo leather cape that Ramu had previously failed to sell. The memory of the cancelled order clearly annoys the shopkeeper. Ramu asks incredulously if Toru plans to bring the child along on his adventures. He looks over his shoulder at the small girl, his expression skeptical. Moo asks what that means, and Sora patiently explains that it means going outside. Ramos scoffs, calling it wasteful work to make gear for a kid who won't last long. Toru insists that despite her size, the girl is talented. From the window, Sora and Moo watch as Ramu considers Toru's confident words. Toru asks the owner to keep what he is about to show him a secret. Ramu is shocked as a damaged piece of armor becomes perfectly new in his hands. Moo asks if that was a greeting, and Sora jokes that it means he gave up. The armorer demands to know what trick was used, as he saw nothing happen. Toru reveals his skill can do this now, and Ramu asks if he's finally succeeded. Overcome with joy, Ramu grabs his old friend, shouting that he finally did it. He then realizes with the start that this new power could make his repair business obsolete. Toru reassures him, saying he will continue his life as an adventurer with him. He asks if Ramu is now willing to accept the job of making the shoes. Ramu enthusiastically agrees, promising to make a great product for the kiddo. He examines the restored armor, the clang of the metal echoing in the shop. He wonders aloud how the tears and holes were sealed without any repair scraps. Toru explains that his restoration power can now even make up for lost parts. Ramu's eyes light up, imagining the possibilities with rare materials like dragon skin. He muses that even valuable white ferret leather could be duplicated. Toeru clarifies that there is a limit. It can only restore about 30% of what's missing. He theorizes that the brain can't recognize a material from too small a piece. Ramu understands he'll need a fairly large piece of armor to work from. He confidently states he can manage it with his connections and will be in Toru's care. The two old friends clasp hands, sealing their new partnership. From behind a wall, Mu peeks out, watching them with wide eyes. Sora also watches the exchange, a gentle and happy smile on her face. Their next stop is the large tower-like building of the Adventure Bureau. Inside, a group of adventurers gossips about the rumor that Toru set a beer anchor on fire. Another adds that he heard the pretty girl with him used a never-before-seen magic skill. Mu asks what the place is, her question causing the gossiping party to stare in shock. Taru enters the guild hall, flanked by Sora in an excited Mu. The other adventurers are baffled by the presence of a child with the infamous old man. One of them points out that she called him father, despite not looking related. They speculate about remarriage as Toru leads Mu toward the contact board. Toru tells them to be quiet, and Mu proudly states this is her Tuchan's job. Sora offers to show Mu her new junior around the guild. She leaves the small girl to a large chalk-covered board on the wall. Sora explains it's where adventurers write what they want to do, and Mu asks to write too. Moose's new shoes tap on the floor in her excitement. She points eagerly up at the tall board, ready to leave her mark. Toru lifts her into his arms, and she asks if it's okay. He holds her steady as she reaches for the board. Her finger traces a line in the chalk dust, scratching out a drawing. She finishes her crew drawing and asks what it is. She proudly points out the figures of herself and her Tuchan. Sora looks closer and realizes the two cat-like figures are Kuro and Shima. She then points to a simple stick figure, asking if it represents her. Satisfied with the drawing, Taru tells them it's time to go to the reception counter. Sora is momentarily crestfallen, realizing she was left out of the family portrait. They arrive at the official adventure registration counter. The receptionist's notes Mu is only 2 years younger than the minimum age of 8. Toru argues it's fine, since she's a magician and won't be in direct danger. The receptionist still refuses to permit it, and Toru asks for her reasoning. She explains that the Purple Eye tribe's initial skill is typically the rare electric sense. Since this is only a detection skill, it is unsuitable for an adventurer's growth. Toru confirms this is because the skill's owner wouldn't be able to earn any skill points. He confidently tells her there won't be a problem, and to proceed with the test. The receptionist looks skeptical but wordlessly agrees to his request. She instructs Mu to place her hand on the soul analyzer orb. Moot eagerly reaches out and places her small hand on the crystal ball. The orb reveals that she is of the purple trunk, lightning spirit tree lineage. The receptionist watches the result with a serious expression. Taru looks on, his gaze calm and steady, already knowing the outcome. The receptionist announces that Mu's possessed skill is the rare electric spine. Toru explains that this counterattack magic will allow her to earn skill points. The receptionist, satisfied, agrees that there will be no problem and will issue the tag. Mu looks up at Toru, who seems slightly taken aback by the smooth process. Toru proudly hands the newly registered adventurer her official tag. A close-up shows the tag, a symbol of Mu's new beginning. With the registration complete, Toru announces that they can finally go hunting. He turns to see Sora, still at the contact board, perched on a stepladder. Sora announces with a smile that she's finished with her addition. Mu looks up at her, her expression curious. Toru calls out to Sora, telling her they are done here. The completed drawing now includes Sora, cheerfully depicted with large bunny ears. Mu clenches her fists, her face alight with determination, and shouts, "All right." A new chapter begins for the party's youngest member, Mu Reborn. Sora marvels at a beautiful spark of light that zaps Teru's hand. Toru explains, "It is Mu's innate magic, an automatic counter called electric spine." Mu exclaims that after the spark, the itching she has felt for so long has finally stopped. Sora realizes with a start that all of the child's fleas are gone. Toru pats Mu's head again, confirming the skill's pest-repelling effect. In a metaphysical space, Toru observes the branch representing Mu's skill on her skill tree. He recalls using his own restoration to revert her skill to its level 0 state. This revealed an extraordinary rarity. Mu was born with 3 latent skills. He also saw a mysterious, large orb nestled in the roots of her spiritual tree. Back in the forest, Teru tells Mu to look into his eyes for the next step. The intense focus suddenly makes Mu feel as if she were back in the dark, lonely alley. Toru gently asks what's wrong, as her earlier determination has vanished, looking up with fear in her eyes. Mu asks if he's going to get mad at her. Both Toru and Sora look down at the frightened child with deep concern. Toru's expression softens as he reassures her that he is happy she is trying. He kneels down, telling her not to worry. Mu asks if he truly means it. With renewed courage, Moose steals her resolve and meets his gaze. A connection is made, her violet eyes widening as she sees into his soul. She finds herself in a strange space, asking about the weird tree growing there. Toru directs her to the glowing orb at the roots, explaining it is her special ability since sharing. He realizes her past fear stemmed from this power to share feelings with others. People must have misunderstood her, seeing her as an evil child, forcing her to live with cats. Back in reality, Toru pats her head, asking if she is all right. Mu throws her arms around him in a relieved hug. They return to the metaphysical tree, where Toru instructs her to pour skill points onto the middle bump. Mu tilts a spectral jug, and a stream of energy flows onto the trunk. The latent bump glows and sprouts, growing quickly into a new branch. The branch reaches level 1, unlocking a new skill, electric radar. Back in the forest, Toru asks if she is ready to use her new power. Moot eagerly agrees, clenching her fists in concentration. A visible pulse of energy expands outward from a small body. The wave spreads through the trees, mapping the entire area. The radar sweeps across the forest, detecting everything in its path. "I've sent something over there," Muyes point in excitedly. Sora stares in utter shock, wondering how the child can now use 2 skills. She exclaims to Toru that she doesn't understand any of this at all. He calmly confirms that Mu was born with the potential for 3 skills. Following the radar, Mu leads them deeper into the woods, pointing the way. Their target is revealed, a simple gelatinous slime monster. Toru lifts Mu onto his shoulders and she takes aim with a sharp rock. With a determined cry, she hurls the small stone with all her might. It strikes the slime's core, destroying it instantly. Toru praises her good aim. The slime dissolves into nothing, leaving Sora speechless. Mu asks if she did well, and Toru confirms that she did great. He reflects that her seemingly restricted skill is more useful than he ever imagined. Sora playfully ruffles Mu's hair, declaring that her little sister won't beat her. Mu looks back with a determined expression, ready for the next challenge. Toru tells her the next step will be difficult, but she insists she can do it. With a confident smile, Mu announces they're going back to the tree. In the spiritual space, a hand touches the final, topmost bump on the tree. The jug of skill points is once again prepared to be poured. Toru instructs her to make the top bump bigger this time, and Mu agrees. The bump grows into a level 1 branch, unlocking her 3rd skill, Thunder Needle. Back in the forest, Mu crackles with electricity as Toru asks if she wants to try it. She crouches low, yelling thunder as she unleashes her new power. Sora worries that the crackling energy looks painful, asking if it is safe. Surrounded by harmless lightning, Mu insists it just feels a little weird. To test her new reflexes, Toru holds a handful of pebbles, telling her to dodge. A single stone flies toward her face as the test begins. He then unleashes the entire handful in a scattered volley. The pebbles rain down on the small girl from all angles. With incredible speed, Mu weaves and dodges a blur of motion. She stands completely untouched as the stones fall harmlessly around her. Toru catches the last pebble, his expression one of pure astonishment. He looks at her, genuinely impressed by her flawless display of agility. Sora cheers that Mu dodged every single one as the child celebrates her new power. Toru praises her, admitting she did even better than he had expected. Overjoyed, Mu rushes forward and gives her mentor a tight hug. He then asks if she can share that incredible power with him. He theorizes that she has never tried to use sense sharing in reverse. He connects this idea to the stray cats, who also had no fleas. He believes she was unconsciously sharing her repellent magic with them. He asked if she would mind sharing her power with him now. Mu's eyes narrow in concentration as she prepares to try. She looks up at Toru, her senses focused entirely on him. He instructs her to close her eyes and ears and transfer only the thunder needle effect. She does as he says, covering her ears and focusing her mind. Toru feels a jolt as the power begins to flow into him. "That was spot on, Mu," he says, feeling the energy surge through him. "Now breathe in the same lightning." Toru moves with incredible speed. He playfully tosses the laughing girl into the air, much to sore surprise. With Mu on his shoulders, both crackling with power, Toru declares the hunt can begin. Mu, however, asks what about her if she isn't one of them. She turns to Sora, telling her big sister that it's still too early for her. Sora pleads for Mu to share, while Mu tells Tuchan that she's hungry. Toru smiles, offering Mu a large apple to snack on. Sora looks on, completely left out of the power sharing. Later, they arrive at the Adventurers Bureau Assessment Office. A massive pile of monster horns covers the submission counter. The receptionist, Inna, notes that Toru is bringing in larger hauls every day. He holds a sleeping Mu, reflecting on how her new skills have boosted their success. Their payment for the day is a handsome sum of silver and copper coins. Inna watches them leave, a thoughtful expression on her face. She reviews her records, puzzled by their sudden, dramatic increase in subjugations. She wonders how a small party of 3 can hunt 50 monsters in a single day. That night, Sora remarks on how exhausting the day must have been for Mu. She admits that her own magic is limited while Mu was amazing, mastering new skills instantly. Toru explains that magical stamina depends on many factors, including one's disposition. He theorizes Mu increased her power by constantly targeting herself with her flea-repelling magic. Toru explains that Sora's skill is only usable when attacked by monsters, but has great potential. Sora offers to carry the sleeping Mu, but Toru assures her he is not yet tired. With a determined smile, Sora insists she wants to help, hoping to bond with Mu. Toru finds it odd that Mu seems to only hold a strange dislike for Sora. He speculates that Mu once had a traumatic experience using her powers on a girl like Sora. He gently advises Sora to be patient, and she thanks him for his thoughtful words. Sora suddenly has a request, her expression turning bright and eager as she looks at Teru. With a knowing look, Toru asks if she was sleeping with the cats the previous night. A flashback shows a flustered Sora in bed, claiming the cats made it too warm. He cheekily suggests they could trade the sleeping child for the 2 stray cats. Sora confesses the cats were scratching at her door trying to get to Moon. He smiles, agreeing that her new story about the cat sound about right. Sora proposes a sleeping arrangement swap, but Toru quickly turns down her offer. Sora playfully calls him a liar, knowing he can fall asleep absolutely anywhere. The grand main gate of the bustling border town Dayton stands tall and imposing. Townsfolk, including excited children, wave as people pass through the city's main gate. Chapter 8 begins, titled Sign, showing a group of dynamic adventurers in action. It is said that all the high-ranking adventurers gather at the Fame Choice Bar. During a tense battle, Mu announces that the Thunder Needle power has just worn off. The giant caterpillar's leg slams down with immense force, a dangerous and heavy blow. The monster's sharp, furry leg makes a direct and forceful impact on Toru's arm. The caterpillar recoils, its body shaking as sparks fly from its poisonous fur. Sora shouts a desperate warning to Toru, telling him to avoid the poisonous fur. Wataru remains calm as sparks of electricity crackle around his arm from the deflected blow. Mew gives a confident thumbs up, signaling she has switched to sharing electric spine. With a powerful two-handed strike, Toru plunges his sword deep into the caterpillar's head. He coolly withdraws his blade from the slain beast. The battle now won. Mu asks if he defeated them all, and Toru confirms that the hunt is finished. He explains that electric spine was a huge help in the fight against itching. Sora asks for help burning the fur, but Mu is busy inspecting a man of stone. Mew holds the small, glittering man of stone. Fascinated by its radiant, crystalline form, she reaches out a small hand, about to place the magic stone on her sled. With a soft touch, she places the glowing man of stone onto the wooden sled. The sled levitates, and a delighted Mu jumps aboard for a magical ride. Sora warns her not to touch the white fur, but Mu asks if it's really itchy. Mu immediately complains to Teru that her hand is itchy, and he sighs in resignation. He places his gloved hand over hers, activating his powerful restoration skill. Mu happily waves her hand, now itch-free, as Toru scolds her for not listening. Sora teases that he looks like a real father and should find a cute wife. He ignores her, telling Mu it is time to finally deal with the caterpillar fur. He carefully explains how to start the fire, warning her not to get burned. Mu holds the burning branch to the pile, asking if she's doing it correctly. The massive bodies of the slain giant caterpillars are piled high on the sled. The sled, weighed down by its heavy cargo, scrapes noisily along the ground. He notes the sled can't carry 3 at once due to the low-rank magic stone. Mu observes that pulling the heavy sled is still much easier than carrying everything. Toru gently pats her head, asking if she is curious about the caterpillar meat. She quietly asks if the meat is tasty, and he confirms with a gentle smile. He promises to carry her if she gets tired on their way back to town. Her face lights up with a brilliant smile as she happily accepts his offer. The party arrives at the city gate, pulling the sled piled high with monsters. Carlos the guard is surprised to see Toru with a child asking when it happened. Sora cheerfully greets Carlos and spontaneously invites the surprise guard to dinner. Toru rejects her overly familiar invitation, but Carlos seems eager to accept it. A sleepy Mu rubs her eyes and asks her to Chan if they are home yet. Carlos leans down, trying to speak to the small child hiding behind Toru. Mu angrily confronts Carlos, calling him a jerk and demanding to know who he is. She declares he is suspicious for knowing her name, and Toru dryly agrees. As they leave, Carlos yells after the old man that their conversation isn't over. The reward for their hunt is tallied: 2 silver and 18 copper coins. Toru reflects on their success, having saved 5 silver coins in just 1 week. He calculates that at this pace, Sora and Mu will reach level 2 in 2 months. A simple wooden structure stands under the afternoon sun, a sign of civilization. The city market is alive with activity, with vendors grilling skewers over open flames. Moon marvels at the food, and Toru reminds her that it isn't free. Mu calls the concept of money savage, surprising Toru with her vocabulary. Sora kindly offers Mu a bite from a freshly grilled meat skewer. Perched on Toru's back, Mu takes a large, enthusiastic bite of the offered food. Sora offers Toru a skewer, and he knows how familiar she is with the market. Mu tells her to Chan how delicious the food is, and Sora happily agrees. Mu continues to devour the skewer as Sora watches, a little overwhelmed by her appetite. Toru suggests a trip to the bathhouse, but Sora protests that she's not prepared. She explains with wide eyes that girls have special preparations for bathing. He decides they will invite their landlady Ural to join them at the bathhouse. The crescent moon shines brightly in the dark, cloudy sky of the evening. The party arrives at the bathhouse and Moon marvels at the grand building. Toru says his goodbyes as Mu starts to follow him into the men's side. Sora holds back a struggling Mu, who wails as she wants to go with Toru. In a changing room, Sora and Mu get ready for their bath with other women. Ural gently reminds the younger women to wrap themselves in towels before entering. Sora turns to give Mu a towel, only to discover the child has already vanished. Moose stands confidently amidst the steam, declaring that the bathhouse is not so bad. The bathhouse is elegantly decorated with ornate tiles and high windows letting it steam. Magical lanterns hang from the ceiling, casting a warm glow through the thick steam. The Mew eyes the large steaming pool, contemplating whether or not she should get in. She cautiously dips a single toe into the water, testing the temperature. She immediately recoils, hopping on one foot and crying out that is too hot. With fierce determination, she declares she will not lose and prepares to jump in. Her face is a mask of pure, childish determination as she prepares for the plunge. Sora catches her mid-air, insisting they must wash their bodies first before bathing. The long, tiled bath stretches out, the water placid and invitingly warm. Sora starts washing a pouting Mu, who finally relents and agrees to be cleaned. Soon, Mu is covered in a mountain of bubbles, her pout replaced by a happy grin. Sora happily pours water over Mu's head, rinsing away the mountain of soap suds. Sora asks Mu to wash her back now, and the little girl readily agrees. A playful explosion of soap bubbles fills the air, a sign of their fun. Mu, covered in bubbles again, exclaims that taking a bath is so much fun. The two of them share a moment of pure joy, laughing together amidst the bubbles. Euro watches them with a warm smile, announcing it's time to rinse them off. A final splash of water is accompanied by a happy shriek of laughter. In a steamy bathhouse, Sora reflects on her tiring but fulfilling first week back in the world. But with Toru safe, the most important person is with her, and she has nothing more to ask for. Nearby, Mu floats on her back, eyes closed in blissful relaxation as Sora watches over her. Sora asks the little girl if she loves her big sister. Mu simply replies that she doesn't know. Undeterred, Sora smiles warmly, telling Mu that she loves her very much. Mu thinks for a moment, then clarifies that she at least doesn't hate her. Sora accepts this small victory with a knowing, gentle smile. Later, Mu is captivated by an ornate contraption, asking what it is. Sora explains it's a cooling fan powered by magic stones, which costs 5 copper coins to run. Mu stands before it with her arms outstretched, basking in the magical breeze. Ural arrives with post-bath refreshments, offering apple juice to the girls. The 3 of them happily chug their drinks, feeling refreshed and renewed. Outside, they meet Teru. Mu calls out to her to Chan as he asks if she behaved. Sora, feeling reborn, vows to do her best tomorrow, and Mu enthusiastically agrees. Toru cuts them off with a smile, informing them they have a day off, asking if he forgot to mention it. On a quiet porch, Toru meets with Dayton, the Adventure Bureau's director. Dayton bows his head, his expression grim as he asks Toru for his help. Toru correctly guesses it's about the wall. Dayton complains the temple won at 10 gold coins. He offers a pouch of magic tools as collateral, asking for a large loan. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Toru asks why he needs this done so suddenly. Dayton explains it has been 9 years since the last monster attack and the town is complacent. Toru grimly recalls that day of defeat when he was injured saving a child. He agrees to help, but will only perform a first aid repair to avoid drawing attention. Dayton worries as the city's main forces are away at Basalia, with few reports coming in. Toru asks if the number of goblins has increased, confirming the director's fears. He reveals that Mu's radar has detected a strange increase in goblin numbers for days. Dayton admits his shame for only acting in a crisis, but vows to protect the town. Feeling the weight of the conversation, Toru awkwardly asks if he can leave now. Dayton explains that nightmares of guilt forced him to stay at Vice Director Sack his house. A horrifying flashback shows a man, likely a memory from the nightmare, in agony. He is bound to a cross, tormented by a crowd of faceless figures below. Dayton recalls spending the day there, but now feels that everything is okay. He entrusts the wall repairs to Toru, who will take Mu and the cats with him. Toru stands before the crumbling outer wall, noting the damage is far worse than he imagined. He instructs Mu not to wander far while he works, and she happily agrees. Moose zips away on her sled, declaring that she will become like the wind. Toru watches her go, reflecting that even a special child needs a master's guidance. He surveys the massive, dilapidated wall, wondering where he should even begin. A map shows the city of Dayton in its horseshoe shape, surrounded by the Goblin's Forest. An entry point at the bottom of the town leads directly out into the woods. A cross-section of the wall shows its immense height and layers of stone. The main gate on the far side of the city connects to the main highway. If the outer wall falls, the bridges connecting the inner and outer districts will be destroyed. Carrying a ladder, Toru decides to start with the most heavily damaged sections. He notes that since he can't move while using restoration, covering a wide area at once is impossible. He places his hand on a large hole, deciding to revert it by 10 years. The hole is sealed, but the repaired section looks jarringly new and out of place. He worries someone will spot the obvious patch job and considers narrowing the skills range. He touches another section, power crackling from his hand as an idea forms. A confident smile spreads across his face. He realizes that while he can't restore large missing sections, he can seal the cracks. He laments that he has to use his skill so many times, wishing he had a target scattering ability. A vision shows a magic user attacking multiple monsters at once with such a skill. He dismisses the wish as useless, but then decides to try something he's been thinking about. He recalls the memory of the caterpillar hunt when a sudden itching came to him unbidden. He realizes he can search his consciousness using keywords, like flawless. You find a memory of a perfect ancient stone from the wall's original construction, using this memory as a template. He places his hand on the wall and unleashes his power. The sound of shifting, mending stone echoes through the air. He looks on in satisfaction at a 50-step section of the wall, now seamlessly repaired. Mu runs up, asking if he's finished. He tells her he needs to wait for his skill to recharge. He smiles and tells her play, and she zips off with the cats again. While he waits, he decides it's time to try out a heavy iron sword. He takes a low stance, the massive blade feeling unfamiliar in his hands. The sword thuds with a heavy sound as he swings it, testing its balance. He notes that the weight is nothing like the wooden sword he is used to. He knows that if he cannot master this weapon, he will not be able to move forward. The sun begins to set, casting the city in the warm light of evening. He has managed to repair the entire north wall in one day, but must rest before starting the south. He calls out to Mu, telling her it is time for them to go back. The new family enjoys a warm meal together, the two cats eating scraps at their feet. The next day, Toru announces their new target, a dangerous armored boar. Sora and Mu are immediately excited, already thinking of the feast they will have. Toru warns them that these massive beasts are not easy opponents to defeat. If Sora realizes that defeating this monster is how Toru's adventure plate became blue, Mo declares that she wants a blue one too, a desire Toru says everyone shares. With fierce determination, Mu concentrates her body pulsing with magical energy. For 2 solid hours, she repeatedly uses her electric radar to scan the forest. The radar leads them to a dark cave. Mu asks if the boar's nest. Toru's expression turns serious as he quickly covers her mouth. He whispers that it is, without a doubt, a goblin's nest. As if summoned, a horde of goblins begins to pour out from the darkness. A larger, more muscular hobgoblin emerges from the cave, a far greater threat. Sora is shocked. Toru explains it's a subspecies rarely seen on the surface. The hobgoblin's appearance means a massive monster outbreak is now certain. The chapter title appears, Chapter 9, The Outbreak, as goblins swarm from the dungeon. Mu and Sora, confused, ask what a dungeon is. Toru explains it is an underground hole where powerful monsters live. He says it resembles the Great Abyss, the source of all monsters in their world. Every dungeon has a black hole at its core believed to be linked to the abyss. The miasma pours from this hole, causing monster populations to explode, leading to an outbreak. Toru warns that there is another cause for the outbreak, surprising Sora. The monsters on the surface have had their territory shrink, forcing them to run wild. In the worst-case scenario, the underground and surface monsters will attack together. Mu asks if they're going to fight, but Toru says it's impossible against such numbers. He explains that their only option now is to warn the 3 nearby sawmills. He tells them to hurry, and they prepare to flee the encroaching horde. Sora asks what Toru is lighting with a strange cylinder. He explains it is his reward for the wall repair and incendiary incense. Its foul smell should repel the hobgoblins, buying them precious time to escape. Toru calmly lights a small cone-shaped object as Sora watches with concern. From the dark woods, a group of goblins reacts to the strange smell. The creatures recoil as thick, accurate smoke billows from the thrown object. With a deft flick of his wrist, Toru hurls the smoking cone. He urgently tells his companions that now is their chance to escape. A sharp transition cuts to another scene elsewhere in the forest. Between the trees, a party of 4 young adventurers is arguing amongst themselves. The archer, Hisoku, warns the warrior, Rekuru, that they are not ready for this. Rikaru retorts that Hisoku is too scared, but Hisoku worries their luck will run out. The magic user, Alicia, sighs, lamenting that her companions are always like this. She turns to their leader, Sisson, pleading with him to say something. Sisson resigns himself, saying you can't help it. That's just how guys are. He reflects that their party wasn't always filled with such harsh words. He admits, however, that he can understand their growing frustration and irritation. He knows the atmosphere changed when a certain amateur girl showed up with outstanding results. He recalls how he, Rikaru, and Hisoku left their village together half a year ago. They were motivated by the promise of a rich life as high-ranking adventurers, but he acknowledges that from the start, none of them possessed any special talent. Suddenly, the entire party is startled by a loud crashing sound nearby. Sisson curses under his breath as he realizes what is coming. A monstrous armored boar, far larger than normal, smashes through the undergrowth. Its snarling face is a grotesque mask of rage and mutated tusks. The beast's body is unnaturally proportioned with far too many legs. Hisoku and Alicia gasp in horror at its immense size and extra limbs. Ignoring Sisson's warning, Ricard declares that he will fight it anyway. He charges forward, sword raised, directly at the monster's head. The young warrior leaps into the air, aiming a powerful strike. His blade clangs uselessly against the creature's thick armored hide. Rikaru realizes in a flash of horror that he cannot even scratch it. The board prepares to unleash a devastating counterattack. With a swing of its massive head, it sends Rikaru flying backward. The warrior slams into the ground with a sickening, bone-jarring impact. His companions cry out his name in utter terror and disbelief. Rikaru coughs up blood, his body broken from a single brutal blow. Lying on the ground, he weakly gasps for the others to run. The board turns its attention to the remaining members of the party. Sisen bravely tells his two friends to run while he buys them time. Hisoku stammers, frozen in fear and unable to comprehend the order. Sisen steels his resolve, ready to sacrifice himself for his friends. He yells at the boar, drawing its attention away from the others. He turns and runs, leading a massive beast on a desperate chase. He knows he must take some of the attacks to give them time. Elysia rushes to Rikaru's side, trying to rouse the unconscious warrior. She sees his vacant eyes and fears the worst, thinking it cannot be. She realizes with despair that her level 1 healing water is too weak. Suddenly she looks up, sensing a new, immediate danger approaching. The boar has abandoned its chase and now barrels towards Sisen. It slams into the young leader, crushing him against a large tree. Sisen weakly begs for help for someone to save him. The boar's tusk smashes through his shield as if it were paper. Sisen is thrown against the tree trunk with devastating force. His body crumples as he falls from the violent impact. He lands in a heap on the forest floor, completely unmoving. Elysia whispers his name, tears streaming down her face in despair. A single teardrop reflects the horror of the unfolding scene. The reflection shows are kneeling over Rikaru's still form. She looks up in terror as the boar turns its attention towards her. The monster charges, its eyes fixed on its next helpless victim. Rikaru, barely conscious, urges Elysia to run and save herself. She refuses to leave him, shielding his body with her own. An arrow suddenly streaks through the air, aimed at the beast. It strikes the boar's tough hide, but bounces off harmlessly. Hisoka stares in dismay. His desperate shot has completely failed. From the tree line, Sisen yells for Hisoku to get out of there. Hisoka laments that his legs, as usual, are frozen with fear. The boar barrels towards the terrified, unmoving archer. A close-up shows the boar's eye as it closes in for the kill. The beast tramples Hisoku, splintering his bow beneath its immense weight. Elysia screams out his name in pure anguish. The sound of the brutal impact echoes through the clearing. The boar stands over the fallen archer, victorious and unopposed. Hisoku lies twitching on the ground, defeated and broken. Elysia looks for Mikaru's still form to the approaching monster. System watches in horror, wondering how things could go so wrong. Elysia knows she has used up all of her magic power. She prepares to cast her final healing water spell on Rikaru. The boar, having finished with his Soku, turns back towards her. Elysia feels a small sense of relief that she could at least save her car. She looks up, her face grim as the beast approaches her. Rikaru's eyes are half open, his consciousness fading away. A bright light appears behind Elysia, and Rikaru weakly asks who it is. He wonders if the god of death has finally come for him. The boar looms over Elysia, ready to deliver the final fatal blow. Elysia holds her staff, her expression one of grim determination. A hand gently rests on her shoulder from behind. Toru stands behind her, telling her she did well, and it's all right now. Elysia looks up, tears of relief and shock welling in her eyes. Toru looks down at the injured adventurers with a calm, steady gaze. Rikaru sits up, bewildered, asking what happened to his grievous injuries. Elysia stares at Toru, her face flushed with a storm of emotions. Toru tells Sora to handle the others while he takes care of the boar. He moves swiftly, helping to fall in his Soku to his feet. He gives Hisoku a reassuring pat, ensuring the young man is steady. Elysia and Rikaru watch in stunned silence, unable to comprehend his skill. The boar snorts, steam rising from its nostrils as it eyes its new challenger. Reeved in crackling lightning, Toru charges towards the monstrous beast. From the boar's perspective, Toru is seen helping the fallen scissor. Sisen looks up, recognizing the powerful man who has come to their aid. Toru draws his heavy iron sword, his face a mask of determination. He unleashes a powerful, lightning-infused strike against the mutated boar. Reeve in lightning, Toru leaps through the air to strike the armored boar. His sword clashes against the beast's hide with a deafening screech of metal. He cries out in frustration as his powerful blow slips off its tough armor. He realizes with dread that Mu's Thunder Needle skill will soon wear out. His determined eyes scan the clearing, searching for any possible advantage. He spots a massive, ancient tree with thick, gnarled roots nearby. He immediately changes tactics, dodging the boar's furious charge with incredible speed. He expertly weaves around the colossal tree, luring the beast into his trap. He slides past the enraged monster, just out of reach of its deadly tusks. The boar continues its unstoppable charge, now aimed directly at the tree. He feels the last of the powerful Thunder Needle effect fade from his body. With a final surge of adrenaline, He prepares for the decisive maneuver. He throws himself clear of the charging beast with a desperate acrobatic leap. The boar, unable to stop, crashes headfirst into the ancient tree's trunk. The impact is cataclysmic, sending splinters of what's flying through the forest air. Its massive tusks are driven deep into the wood, trapping it completely. The rookie adventurers stare in awe, wondering what happened to the old tree. They're completely overwhelmed by the sheer relief of their sudden rescue. Sison turns to Elysia, asking what just happened, his voice full of shock. Elysia, her body trembling from the ordeal, can only stammer in response. She breaks down into tears, crying out that she doesn't know what happened. Her companions rush to comfort her, patting her head in gentle reassurance. Toru approaches the trapped and struggling boar, his sword held at the ready. He prepares to deliver the final decisive blow to the incapacitated monster. His hand tightens around the hilt of his sword, his knuckles turning white. He calmly observes the creature, noting its massive size and extra legs. Sison thanks Toru, who just says he wanted to hunt the beast anyway. Still confused, Sison asked why he would go to such lengths to save them. Toru simply scratches his chin, a thoughtful and mysterious glint in his eye. As realizing he might be prying, Sison quietly apologizes for his question. Toru explains that this is no normal boar, pointing out its many legs. Monsters are mutating into special genres as their territory shrinks from logging. He connects this to a nearby goblin cave, a sign of impending crisis. Understanding the growing danger, Toru turns to Sison and asks for help. Sison's party realizes the problem is far bigger than they had ever imagined. Elysia turns to their leader, asking Sison what he thinks they should do. Sison, his face set with resolve, declares that he will follow Teru-san. His party looks on, their expressions a mix of surprise and grim determination. Mu asks if they're leaving the boar, but Teru says it is too dangerous. He promises they will retrieve their prize on the way back and urges them on. The newly formed alliance departs, leaving the trapped, struggling boar behind. A map shows the goblins' forest encircling Dayton with 3 sawmill locations. Toru takes command, sending Sison's party to the south sawmill. Toru's party heads north, with Mu riding comfortably on a makeshift sled. They soon arrive at the towering wooden structure of the north sawmill. A foreman greets Toru, who is panting here with extremely urgent news. He warns that goblins are pouring from cave, creating a dangerous situation. The foreman, grasping the gravity of the situation, immediately blows a whistle. He orders his men to evacuate, warning of a potential monster outbreak. He tells them to prepare a smoke signal to alert the town of Dayton. As the workers thank them, Toru tells his party to run on ahead. The adventurers and workers begin their desperate race back toward the city. Looking back, they see another plume of smoke rising from the south. As the city wall comes into view, the foreman urges everyone to hurry. Toru's eyes narrow as he notices something is wrong at the wall. The foreman explains that there's no blue signal. Half the guards are away. Exhausted, the large group finally reaches the safety of the city gate. Mu and Sora notice Toru is out of breath and ask if he's okay. Sora offers to carry him, but Mu says she is not strong enough. Toru tells them to go on ahead, explaining that he still has work to do. Sora thinks they must protect the landlady, but Toru says she is wrong. He reveals Ural is 100 times stronger and tells Sora to stay near her. Mu clutches a small bag, listening intently to Toru's serious instructions. He asks her to be a good girl and wait patiently for his return. He entrusts Sora's safety to Mu, promising to be back as soon as he can. Mu nods solemnly, accepting the heavy responsibility he has just given her. He gently pats her cheek, calling her a good girl for understanding. They share a solemn fist bump, sealing their promise before he has to leave. Sora calls after him to be careful as he runs back toward the city. By the gate, Carlos greets Sora and asks where the old man has gone. Sora explains he had work to do, which annoys Carlos during a crisis. Carlos looks worried, noting that the red smoke signal means big trouble. Suddenly, a blue smoke signal rises from the south, a sign of distress. Mu kicks Carlos, telling the suspicious jerk to leave her sister alone. Sora quickly explains that lots of goblins are coming from a cave. Carlos realizes Sison's party still hasn't returned from the south sawmill. Sora understands. The blue smoke means something terrible has happened to them. Carlos immediately rushes off to help, telling Sora to wait for him. Sora, her face filled with determination, declares that she will help them. The title for Chapter 10 is revealed, Overlapping Fingertips. Carlos tries to stop her, saying she's too inexperienced for an outbreak. He adds that Toru would surely scold him for taking her into danger. Sora argues she can at least guide anyone still lost in the forest. She turns to Mu, asking if the child can go home all by herself. Mu, with her eyes closed, declares that this discussion is meaningless. She opens her eyes, stating that Toru entrusted Sora to her protection. In the forest, Sora finds terrified workers and points them toward the gate. The workers run past her in a panic, yelling to hurry up. Sora turns to one of the men and asks what happened to them. The man looks down at her Ju-rank adventurer's badge with clear disdain. He tells her to get inside, as the massive boar is still out there. Another worker confesses it was their fault for not believing the warning. They only fled when they saw the smoke signal rising from the north. The monstrous boar attacked, and Sissen's party had to act as a decoy. Sora asks what happened next, but the worker callously dismisses her concern. He says it's an adventurer's job, and they can be blamed if they want. The workers turn their backs and run, abandoning the adventurers to their fate. Sora expresses frustration, while Mu says she just followed Toru's orders. Sora looks down at Mu, smiling gently, and calls her a good girl. She gently runs her hand through Mu's hair, finding a small hair whirl. Sora playfully ruffles Mu's hair, causing the little girl to look up in surprise. Sora asks if she heard her, but Mu reassures her it's just a weird feeling. Sora laughs, asking if it feels good, and Mu mumbles happily in agreement. Enjoying the attention, Mu tells Sora that she can keep going. Sora's fingers find another hair whirl and she asks me a question. She asked if they're getting along well now, and Mu quietly agrees they are. Sora asks to join Mu, as one noting her reverse skill is getting better. She wishes she could find a good way to convey her feelings of love. Mu asks if Sora will hate her after they join. Sora promises she will not. Mu then asks if she'll get angry if it feels bad, and Sora vows she won't. Suddenly, a monstrous, multi-legged boar crashes through the trees, chasing terrified men. Sora in mood turn and alarm as Sora cries out that it's a boar. The beast bears down on a fallen worker who screams in pure terror. Sora's eyes narrow with focus as she prepares to unleash her reverse skill. A massive shockwave erupts, sending the charging boar flying backward. The monster tumbles uncontrollably, smashing through the forest trees. Sora yells for the workers to flee, as one man thanks her for the save. Dazed but not defeated, the massive boar struggles back to its feet. Pushing a logger sled, Sora yells for Mu to hold on tight. They begin a frantic race through the woods, the city walls visible ahead. The boar shakes its head, its rage renewed as it prepares to charge. Mu looks back in panic, shouting that the boar has stood up again. Mu pushes with all her might, trying to help propel the heavy sled forward. Sora realizes with grim certainty there is no time to worry about the sled's magic stone. The boar thunders after them, its charge shaking the very ground. With terrifying speed, the beast closes the distance on the fleeing group. Sora's face is a mask of determination and strain as she pushes onward. But the towering city gate appears before them, but heavy doors are already closing. One of the workers desperately calls out for the others to wait. Sora screams encouragement, telling the panicked men that they are so close. Looking over her shoulder, she shouts a warning that the beast is catching up. With a final desperate shove, Sora sends the sled and the men stumbling forward. The massive wooden gates slam shut with a deafening final thud. Leaning over, gasping for breath, Sora manages a weak cheer of victory. She turns with a relieved smile, telling Mu that they did it. The sled sits just inside the gate, empty save for its flower-like crest. A flashback begins showing the events that occurred just shortly before. Sissen's party expertly kites the monstrous boar, leading it on a frantic chase. From the bushes, the archer Hisoka takes aim and lets an arrow fly. The arrow finds its mark, but only serves to enrage the powerful beast. The boar changes targets, charging directly at the archer's hiding spot. Hisoka nervously nocks another arrow, preparing for the monster's assault. Sissen watches calmly, anticipating the boar's predictable head-on charge. He observed that the boar's extra legs boost its power but hinder its turning. Sissen explains that if they use obstacles as shields, they can dodge it. Just as planned, the boar smashes headfirst into a thick tree. Sissen admits that even so, it's still impossible for them to face it directly. Their only goal, he declares, is to buy time for the workers and survive. Elysia watches in terror as the boar recovers and prepares to charge again. Suddenly, a new voice rings out as Carlos arrives, telling the brats he'll take over. The gatekeeper moves with impossible speed, weaving through the undergrowth. His eyes are cold and focused as he grips his spear, ready for battle. The armored boar roars, its attention now fixed on this new threat. Carlos effortlessly dodges a charge, taunting the beast for being too slow. He leaps away from the monster, announcing that the left leg is next. The boar snaps its jaws, but Carlos is already moving to a new position. He hurls his spear, striking the beast through its open, roaring mouth. He mockingly tells the boar it's not a good time to open its big mouth. With 2 more precise strikes, he completely cripples the monster's legs. Carlos circles the downed beast, preparing to deliver the final blow. With a confident smirk, he declares that the fight is over. A massive bolt of lightning descends, engulfing the boar in an electric flash. The monster's head is completely vaporized by the overwhelming magical power. Carlos lands gracefully atop the smoldering corpse. The battle won. Sisson's party can only stare in shock, recognizing the powerful gatekeeper. Carlos looks up toward the city wall with a knowing, satisfied expression. He casually dismisses the outbreak as a rumor and tells the party to hurry back. Back in the present, Sora looks around the empty gate entrance, confused. She turns back toward the closed gate, calling out Mu's name. Her desperate cries for Moot echo through the now sealed city entrance. She asks the workers if they've seen a child, but they deny seeing her. A look of dawning, gut-wrenching horror spreads across Sora's face. She throws herself at the gate, pounding on the wood and screaming Moo's name. A gatekeeper grabs her, angrily asking if she is trying to get them all killed. He shoves her to the ground, spitting that he doesn't care. He turns his back on her, ignoring her pleas as the other workers watch. He secures a heavy padlock and chain, sealing the gate for good. He tells Sora she is free to die, but not to drag them into it. He cruelly adds that the child is long dead, so opening the gate is pointless. A worker confronts the gatekeeper, Rikin, telling him to watch his words. He accuses Rikin of trying to close the gate while they were still outside. Rikin claims he was saving the city, but the worker retorts his job is to fight. One of the men declares that Sora protected them in an extraordinary way. The workers berate to former adventurer, telling him to do his job. Overwhelmed, Rikin turns and flees from the angry crowd. Sora watches him go, her expression a mixture of shock and despair. Suddenly, she hears a faint crackle of thunder, a familiar sound. She calls out for Mu again, her hope flickering back to life. A small voice echoes in her mind, a memory of a promise to protect her. She remembers Mu saying that Taru had entrusted Sora's safety to her. She realizes with a gasp that Mu jumped off to make the sled lighter. She blames herself for not listening to Toru and returning to the city sooner. She clenches her fist, her knuckles turning white with guilt and resolve. Looking at the gate with new determination, she makes a desperate request to move. She pleads that just for a little bit, she wants to be one with her. She begins to hammer her fists against the unyielding wooden gate. She screams that Mu is still alive, using her thunder needle to survive. She lists all the things they still have to do, from eating to taking a bath. She wails that she won't even be able to look for more hair worlds. A tiny hand reaches through a crack. As Mu asks about the rub thing, Sora confirms Mu's request, promising she will rub her as much as she wants. Kneeling at the gate, Sora asks if becoming one will make Mu hate her. From behind the gate, Mu asks if Sora will get sick of her or be violent. A memory surfaces of Mu's mother, who was always crying when she was violent. Mu recalls her past, finding solace only with the 2 stray cats in the alley. Sora promises she will never be violent or say such things to Mu-chan. She remembers how Toru was always there to save her in the past. Sora vows that now it is her turn to save Mu and be by her side, tears streaming. She tells Mu-chan that she loves her so much. With a surge of emotion, she begins smashing her fists against the gate. Driven by desperation, she relentlessly pounds the thick wood, causing it to splinter. Her bloody hands continue to hammer away, shattering the wooden planks. Her face is a mask of determination as the gate begins to break. She puts all her strength into the assault, ignoring the pain in her hands. With a final desperate cry, she screams out Mu's name. Through the shattered hole, a tiny hand reaches out and Sora grasps it. She continues screaming Mu's name, pulling her through the broken gate. Their hands clasp, marking the start of Chapter 11. Lonely Battle. A title card shows Sora, ready for the fight ahead. Outside the walls, another monstrous armored board charges towards Sora and Mu. Sora stands aground, unleashing her powerful reverse skill. The boar's own momentum is turned against it, shattering its tusks. The beast's massive hooves skid to a halt in the grass. It is thrown backward, stunned and wounded by the reflected force. The monster recovers and Sora is forced to use reverse once more. She unleashes the skill again, the magical backlash taking a heavy toll. Panting with exhaustion, she pushes her body to its absolute limit. The boar's body is mangled and smoking, but it is still standing. Mu watches in terror, swallowing hard as the battle rages on. With one final surge of power, Sora defeats the monstrous beast. The boar collapses, its life force extinguished. Mu asked if it's dead. Mew cautiously approaches the corpse, poking it with a small stick. A faint, triumphant smile appears on Mu's face. She proudly declares that Mu wins again, calling herself really strong. Sora weakly protests that she was the one who did the fighting. Completely drained, Sora collapses face first onto the ground in exhaustion. An hour and a half later, the garrison flag is finally hoisted. A long-distance unit of 30 people takes up positions on the wall. A close combat unit of 40 adventurers charges out from a gate. A reserve force of low rankers takes position in the town square. A lookout on the wall sees a massive disturbance in the distance. He screams for the others to look, his face filled with panic. A monstrous tide of goblins and hobgoblins charges toward the north gate. Massive armored boars act as living, battering rams for the horde. The boars smash through the outer barricades with incredible force. The goblin horde swarms over the broken defenses, using them as steps. They begin to climb the city walls, overwhelming the defenders. An overeager adventurer declares he will deal with the lowly goblins. A muscular hobgoblin hurls a massive rock directly at his head. The rock connects with a sickening crunch, crushing the adventurer's skull. The man screams in agony as his body is thrown backward. He tumbles from the wall, a grim casualty of his own recklessness. The goblin horde continues its relentless, chaotic assault on the city. A veteran commander rallies his troops, ordering them to hold nothing back. The goblins respond with a volley of their own thrown stones. Earth mages coordinate using magnetic earth shield to block the projectiles. Using the opening archers on the wall, begin firing into the horde. A support squad plays the Song of Valor to boost morale. Fire and thunder mages unleash devastating spells to break their formation. The magical assault tears through the front lines of the goblin army. Suddenly, new projectiles arc through the air toward the defenders. The archers' arrows and spells begin to fizzle out against the wall. The stone corrodes and melts under the assault of corrosive bullets. The archers cry out in shock as their defenses crumble around them. The corrosive magic eats away at the parapet, forcing them back. An experienced archer realizes the enemy has finally shown themselves. From the shadows of the forest, sinister hobgoblin shamans emerge. The archer and his squad take aim, preparing to counter the new threat. The shamans attempt to hide behind the trees, their magic ready. The archer declares that hiding won't work against his counter skill. He unleashes a tracking arrow which homes it on its target. The arrow finds its mark, neutralizing the shamanic threat. With the range support gone, he orders the close combat unit to charge. The armored adventurers surge forward to meet the goblin horde head-on. The melee is a brutal clash of steel against tooth and claw. An adventurer screams as a goblin brings its club down on him. The battle descends into a chaotic, desperate struggle for survival. A soldier remarks that their boss is the real monster here. The unit's leader is surrounded, his body crackling with raw power. His own men cry out in terror, realizing they'll be caught in the blast. He raises his massive weapon, preparing to unleash his ultimate attack. His face is a mask of grim determination as he gathers his energy. He unleashes Roaring Thunder, a devastating area of effect spell. The defenders on the wall brace themselves against the shockwave. The blast obliterates everything in its path, friend and foe alike. A wave of destruction washes over the battlefield, clearing space. The goblin forces are momentarily vaporized by the incredible power. The commander stands amidst the smoldering aftermath of his own attack. On the wall, an archer remarks that the commander really overdid it. The commander looks out over the battlefield, his expression grim. He grips his weapon, catching his breath after the massive exertion. He declares that they have somehow managed to hold them off. His eyes narrow as he begins to analyze the goblin strategy. He recalls Toru's report that the north wall was the only one restored. He realizes the hobgoblins are smarter than to attack the strongest point. The rain begins to fall as the horrifying truth dawns on him. He understands with chilling certainty that this was only a diversion. Moments before, Toru was racing along the city's outer perimeter. He knew he had to fix as much of the south wall as he could. He senses movement in the trees, confirming his worst fears. A sudden sound from the wood startles Toru into action. He peers through the dense foliage, his face a mask of concentration. In the distance, a group of figures moves through the trees. He realizes with a jolt of alarm that they are hobgoblins. His eyes narrow, quickly analyzing the bizarre tactical situation. He wonders why their footprints are here so far from the battle. Why would goblins who always charge head-on be lurking here? He concludes that the main battle at the north wall has started. There is no time to run for aid. He knows it's too late. He recalls the chaos of a past attack, saving a small child. Clenching his fist, he vows that he won't let it happen again. He thinks of his new family, determined to protect their dinner table. He watches from hiding as the hobgoblins begin their true assault. His expression is grim as he observes their coordinated movements. The monsters begin tearing down the weakened southern wall with tools. They smash through the ancient stone with picks and brute strength. He confirms his worst fear. The northern attack was just a distraction. He must stop them here without alerting the forces at the wall. He recalls the fleeting burst of speed after Moose's spell faded. His hand grips his sword hilt, his resolve hardening in a steel. His eyes burn with determination as he decides he has to try. He exploded from his hiding place, charging the surprised hobgoblins. With impossible speed, he weaves between them a blur of motion. He uses his sword not to kill, but to herd them away. Panting, he sees they have already breached the outer wall. He slams his hand on the stone, invoking his restoration skill. The wall seals shut, but he looks up, his face etched with worry. He thinks that at this rate, he might be able to handle them. Suddenly, a terrifying, dark presence washes over him, freezing him. He glances around in alarm, sensing the overwhelming power nearby. His eyes widen in horror as he wonders what the presence is. He understands. It is the hobgoblin chief, the mastermind of the attack. He realizes with dread that their strongest member is on the move. With a final, deafening crash, the wall is completely breached. The hobgoblins smash through the stone he had just restored. They roar that the city can't possibly survive a two-front attack. Toru's face is a mask of pure, unyielding determination. He plants his feet, preparing to make his last stand. The hobgoblins pour through the gap, completely surrounding him. One lunges forward, its cruel blades swinging in a deadly arc. Another hurl is a massive chunk of the wall directly at him. He dodges and weaves, narrowly avoiding the lethal projectiles. The monsters press their attack, leaving him no room to breathe. A low growl rumbles from a particularly large hobgoblin's throat. It makes a grim count. 10 hobgoblins have gotten through. 2 of the beasts attack at once, their blades slashing. He ducks under a wild swing, his own sort of silver blur. A hobgoblin leaps from the broken wall, aiming a downward strike. He sidesteps, just as the blade smashes into the ground. He counters with a powerful punch, sending a monster flying. Gritting his teeth, he pants, the strain of battle showing. His hand trembles from a sheer exertion of a desperate fight. Another hobgoblin charges forward, its face a mask of rage. A blade slips past his guard, carving a deep gash in his side. He stumbles back, his sword clattering against the loose stone. His weapon is sent spinning away, leaving him defenseless. His eyes widen in shock as his enemies close in. In a desperate move, he grabs 2 of the charging hobgoblins. Gritting his teeth against the searing pain, he prepares his attack. With a roar, he smashes their heads together with brutal force. One of the hobgoblins groans in pain from the crushing impact. He screams with effort, pulling them with all his might. The 2 monsters collapse in a heap on the blood-soaked ground. He kneels, exhausted and bleeding, surrounded by his fallen foes. He coughs up blood as the remaining hobgoblins advance on him. 2 more monsters close in, their eyes glowing with malice. Their sharp teeth are bared as they prepare the final blow. His expression is grim, knowing he is out of options. The remaining hobgoblins raise their weapons to strike them down. They lunge forward, ready to end the lone warrior's resistance. A calm voice offers a prayer for the sinners to find peaceful rest. A powerful spell is cast. Cold slumber, a low-tier ice magic. The charging hobgoblins collapse, their weapons falling from their hands. Taru knows only one person in town who can use that magic. He looks up to see his landlady, Ural, holding a simple broom. She calmly welcomes him back amidst the sleeping monsters. In utter disbelief, he asks why his landlady is here. He recognizes the familiar sight of her boarding house in the distance. She explains that places like this are cheap for a good reason. A loud boom from the north gate startles him. The sleeping hobgoblins stir, confused by the distant commotion. The sound of battle echoes through the breached section of the wall. He notes with concern that the victory horn has not yet sounded. He knows he must act before the hobgoblin chief can move again. Urol looks weary, touching her face in clear exhaustion. She offers to help, though she admits she cannot fight for long. He gives her a look of deep gratitude and silent understanding. Placing his hand on the wall, he notes he has 3 uses left. He unleashes restoration, sealing the breach one last time. The hobgoblins outside crash into the newly formed stone wall. They turn in confusion, their path to the city now blocked. Urol closes her eyes, offering another prayer for their peaceful rest. She casts cold slumber again, a wave of magic flowing out. Toru stands ready as the day's hobgoblins are put to sleep. A new group of monsters rushes forward, undeterred by the magic. Ural announces her plan to envelop the area with a thick fog. She casts frozen crystals, her broom glowing with icy power. A thick, shimmering fog swirls around the charging hobgoblins. The monsters cry out as the freezing mist bites at their skin. Together, they face the horde, their powers perfectly synchronized. With the hobgoblins' greatest advantage neutralized, Toru's blade slices through them. The monsters shiver uncontrollably, confused by the sudden, debilitating cold. He realizes the ice crystals have completely halted their regenerative abilities. With their healing nullified, all that remains is to cut them down. But the repeated use of magic causes the landlady to stagger. He lunges forward, catching her as she collapses, crying her name. Her eyes are closed, her energy completely spent from the battle. He understands the unbelievable amount of magical energy she must have used. He resolves to find the peak of her magical power in time. With a surge of light, he will use his skill to restore. Suddenly, the remaining hobgoblins look up towards a new, loud sound. Two are sent flying as the wall behind them completely shatters. They're thrown aside with immense bone-crushing force. The hobgoblin chief smashes through the newly formed breach in the wall. Toru instantly recognizes the monstrous beast leading the goblin forces. He asks if she can walk. She notes her hip pain is gone. She explains defeating a chief is the standard test for E-rank heroes. He tells her not to worry and to watch from safe distance. Understanding his resolve, she dashes away to find a safe vantage point. The hobgoblin chief lets out a deafening, earth-shaking roar. Toru braces himself, his sword shaking under the immense pressure. The monster skin is as tough and unyielding as armor plating. On top of that, its body is covered in a thick boar's fur. He wonders if his simple steel blade can even cut through it. He knows he must aim for its vulnerable head or limbs. He slides under a clumsy swing, narrowly avoiding the powerful blow. The monster's massive club smashes into the ground where he stood. His blade scrapes uselessly against the creature's tough, armored hide. The chief's massive hand closes around Toru's sword arm. With a sudden surge of strength, he wrenches his arm free. The force of the escape sends him stumbling backwards across the rubble. He slides across the ground, just barely regaining his footing. The shallow cut on its face heals with an audible hissing sound. The flesh knits itself back together in a matter of seconds. It licks the last trace of blood away with utter contempt. He realizes any damage he inflicts is almost instantly regenerated. But he knows there is still one place his blade can strike. He dashes forward, closing the distance to the massive beast. He gets inside the monster's guard, preparing his desperate attack. He aims for the creature's single, unprotected eye. His sword plunges deep into the monster's eyeball. A sickening squelch echoes as the blade finds its mark. The monster stumbles but doesn't fall, its foot thudding heavily. It turns to him, the wound already completely healed and gone. He grits his teeth, his attack having been utterly useless. The chief's massive hand closes around Toru's entire body. The grip tightens, threatening to crush him in an instant. He is lifted effortlessly off the ground by his collar. The monster takes a heavy final step, pinning him down. He knows he must overwhelm it with a flurry of attacks, but he is out of breath, his strength quickly failing him. The chief grabs him by the head, ready to finish him. The monster's powerful claws dig into his flesh. With his last ounce of strength, he grits out, "Got you." He unleashes restoration on the wall directly above the chief. Massive stones crash down upon the monster's head. It roars in pain as it is buried under the rock slide. He managed to revert the wall to just before the breach. He thanks the landlady for her help as she approaches. He is struck by a vision of her in her powerful prime. The sight leaves him completely flustered and blushing furiously. As rain begins to fall, he stammers a flustered denial. He realizes he can't let Ural know about her change yet. He worries that the landlady hasn't noticed her transformation. She tells him to hurry back to the gate while she watches. He thanks her and agrees to leave the breach to her. As he runs, she wonders what to make for dinner tonight. The rain continues to fall, washing the battlefield clean. Carlos mockingly tells the old man that the party is over. Toru is relieved to see Cicin and his party are safe. Cicin says Carlos saved them after they met Sora and Mu. Carlos boasts they went on a rampage until the guard arrived. Toru says he owes him one, but Carlos tells him to forget it. A familiar voice joyfully cries out his name, Tu-chan. Sora and Mu race towards him with open, welcoming arms. They tackle him in a massive emotional group hug. Cicin's party looks on, smiling at the heartwarming reunion. Mu and Sora cling to him. Their face is full of joy. Sora's eyes are closed, a blissful smile on her face. He notes she used reverse until she ran out of magic. Sora tells him she thinks she finally understands now. She knows now that putting your life on the line takes guts. She regrets not realizing the importance of their safety sooner. He tells her that her realization is the most important thing. Mu asks if he wants to hear how she beat the boar. He squeezes them both in a tight, loving embrace. They look up at him, their faces filled with adoration. He tells him how glad he is that they are both safe. They insist it's not his fault. They did as he asked. Sora playfully scolds Mu for putting herself in danger again. Toru watches their interaction with a gentle, warm smile. He reflects that the two are finally getting along. The day after the attack, Vice Director Saku's troops return. Their report confirms the ruined area had become a dungeon. The infiltration took place just one day before the Dayton attack. Inside Choi's bar, the leadership discusses the implications. Choi wonders if destroying the dungeon had an adverse effect. Saku dismisses it as a speculation needing further investigation. His eyes narrow as he considers the leadership's failure. The director listens, the weight of the crisis on his face. In Choi's bar, Sakib details the city's poor response to the recent goblin invasion. He notes that a passing adventurer easily handled the southern breach, highlighting their failure. Dayton erupts in a massive laugh, thanking God for that adventurer's timely intervention. Saku insists it's no laughing matter. Knowing Dayton wants to reduce the gate guards, Dayton slams his mug down, refusing to cut numbers and vowing to repair the wall instead. He also proposes compensating the fighters, a topic Sakoed defers to the next committee meeting. David worries about his men's morale, which will surely plummet with more work. Saku admits a guard shutting the gates on citizens gives them all a bad image. Dating is thankful that casualties were low, only 3 guards compared to 112 years ago. He looks off with pride, finding it hard to believe his foolish disciple is so capable. Saku adds that the adventurer in question did have a companion with him. Choi recounts the new rumors of nameless heroes who defeated the hobgoblin horde. He adds that there's an uproar in the city with rumors of a beauty wielding a broom. Dayton smiles, proudly stating that Toru has become a man beyond his expectations. The two men clink their mugs together in a silent, mutual toast of respect. Saku raises his glass with a knowing smile, declaring that he will drink to that. With their silent agreement made, they both take a long, satisfying drink. Dayton then remembers the other hero, asking Saku if it was indeed Lady Ural. Sako, an expert at seeing through deception, confirms that it was definitely her. He chuckles, admitting he was deeply surprised by her truly astonishing beauty. Dayton jokes that perhaps Toru's skill could fix Saku's own rugged appearance. Saka deflects, saying they have more disturbing matters like Basalia to prioritize. He reports that while the dungeon was dealt with, the labyrinth's boss was very troublesome. That is why he concludes he wants that guy to grow even stronger. At the city gate, Carlos prepares to say his goodbyes to an old friend. He tells a surprised Toru that he is quitting the Guardians and leaving with Riken for the selfish act of closing the gates. Riken has been exiled from the city. Carlos explains he can't abandon his hopeless partner of so many years. He asks Toru to apologize to Sora and to tell the pipsqueak that he is cool. Toru smirks, dryly stating he has no plans to teach the child any lies. Carlos accepts the good nature jab with a small, knowing smile. Toru then holds out his fist in a silent gesture of friendship and farewell. Carlos looks surprised and touched by the gesture, a slight blush on his cheeks. The two men share a firm fist bump, a final goodbye between old acquaintances. Toru then offers him a parting gift, taking hold of his well-worn spear. A brilliant light envelopes the weapon as his restoration skill activates. In an instant, the spear gleams as if it were brand new, perfectly restored. Not a single scratch or dent remains on the weapon's polished, shining surface. Toru humbly remarks that this is all his skill is capable of doing. Carlos looks down at the gift, his expression filled with quiet, profound gratitude. Overcome with emotion, he begins to cry, declaring the skill isn't useless at all. He clutches Toru's hand, calling it an amazing skill wielded by an amazing man. Toru watches with a faint smile as his old friend kneels, then departs forever. The somber farewell gives way to a joyous feast, starting with a massive, sizzling steak. Sora and Mu are amazed by the thick cut of meat, asking if it is a meat party. The title card for Chapter 13, Feast, appears next to a contented Toru. Ural also prepared a hot pot with boar ribs, chickpeas, potatoes, and onions. Other dishes included tenderized ground meat skewers, still steaming from a grill. Ural serves the food with a warm smile, telling them to eat as much as they please. Toru privately reflects on how he accidentally restored the landlady's youth. He muses that when he asked her about it, he realized it would be awkward to reverse. Seeing her flustered but happy expression, he concluded that she liked the change. With a loud cry of itadekamasu, Sora and Mu dig into the delicious feast. The food is so heavenly that they feel satisfied, surrounded by cherubic angels. Toru chooses food with quiet contentment, enjoying the wonderful meal. He takes a long drink of black beer, noting it goes perfectly with the juicy meat. Even the two stray cats, Kuro and Shima, are given a share of the boar meat. The new family sits around the table, a perfect picture of warmth and domestic peace. After the meal, Sora and Mu groan that they are too full to take a single step. Sora teases Mu, pointing to a stack of empty plates and noting she ate 5 of them. Toru thanks the lamb lady for the delicious meal, and she hopes he enjoyed it. He holds his mug, sincerely thanking her for the wonderful food and her hospitality. But Uriel explains that the pleasure was hers. It was a gift for defeating 2 boars, or rather, that's what the adventurer with the blue tag told her to do. Mu pats her full stomach, beaming with pride and confirming that it's true. Uriel notes, it's a shame his promotion was postponed, despite his great deeds. Toru is grateful it ended without him standing out, even if he lost a skill. He reflects that he stopped an invasion, got paid, and is making steady progress. Uriel listens to him with a gentle, understanding smile, appreciating his perspective. Teru sets his mug down, telling the landlady he has something important to ask her. With a sincere expression, he asks if she would like to join them on their adventures. Sora is stunned by the sudden invitation while Mu looks on with wide, hopeful eyes. Uriel's warm expression fades, replaced by a look of somber contemplation. She thanks him for the invitation but says an old woman like her would hold them back. Toru senses there is another reason, asking if he is right about his suspicion. He suddenly grabs her hand, his intent focused and clear. He tells her he might be able to help, asking her to let him take a look. His consciousness enters the metaphysical space of her soul to view her skill tree. He scans through her entire personal history, searching for the source of her problem. His perception reveals nothing out of the ordinary in her past experiences. Confused, he delves deeper, certain that something must be fundamentally wrong. Then he sees it, a dark, thorny growth on the trunk of her tree, pulsing with malice. The curse is identified as growth obstruction, preventing her from gaining skill points. Uriel realizes that Toru can understand people's skills without any measuring device. She confirms with a sad look that the cursed fruit is why she quit adventuring. A flashback begins, showing a carriage arriving in a remote village years ago. A much younger, more regal version of Uriel watches the carriage approach her home. The ornate carriage rattles along the dusty road, kicking up clouds of dirt. The local elves wonder why the leader of the Quest Temple has come to their village. A villager reveals the leader has come to meet Uriel, the cursed witch. Another villager quickly shushes her, telling her not to speak so carelessly. Uriel lets out a small, disdainful snort as the carriage pulls up to her cottage. Her expression is cold and distant, a hero weary of the world's endless demands. Inside, she formally thanks the temple leader for coming all this way to see her. She politely but firmly refuses the request to become a teacher for new adventures. The temple leader asked for the reason a hero candidate would suddenly quit adventuring. She calmly stirs her tea, speculating if it is because of the mage killer. Uriel's stoic expression confirms the temple leader's suspicion about the dreaded curse. She explains that defeating a labyrinth lord normally grants a new skill fruit, but a certain labyrinth curses any magic user who dares to conquer its depths. The temple leader dismisses the gossip, stating it is all just a rumor. He says her reasons for quitting, be it dismissal or fatigue, are irrelevant. He smiles gently, holding a cup, making his formal request. A younger Uriel listens as he asks for her knowledge, calling her by title. Uriel tells Teru she became a teacher entrusting her dreams to the young. Toru explains the curse reduces skill points and her magic power with age. He admits he panicked, restoring her to a time when the curse was active. Sora asks with bright hope if restoration can simply remove the curse. He explains his skill cannot remove a fruit growing from the main truck. Sora has an idea, asking Uriel if she can also see the skill tree. Sora calls to Mu, who complains she is too full from dinner to move. Sora teases the lazy Mu, warning she will become a fat cat. The 2 stray cats, Kuro and Shima, look on with startled expressions. The 4 adventurers all join hands together around the wooden dinner table. Mu initiates the link, declaring that everyone is now connected with Tukon. Mu's eye glows with power as she activates her, since sharing ability. They float in a void, gazing upon a massive, luminous skill tree. Uriel marvels at the clarity, while Mu proudly takes all the credit. Toru pats Mu's head, playfully telling her they are a bit busy. Sora stands before the great tree, focusing on the dark curse upon it. The dark, thorny curse pulses with a malevolent, crackling energy. Ural feels a deep rumbling as the power begins to shift and change. Toru and Mu watch intently, wondering what Sora is about to attempt. Sora's eye narrows with intense focus, her plan now set in motion. Sora unleashes her power, throwing a new skill fruit at the dark curse. The two opposing forces collide in a brilliant, chaotic explosion of power. Her new skill, Growth Acceleration, enhances the growth of magic and skills. Toru realizes with a shock that she has reversed the effect of the curse. Sora laughs, admitting she just had a feeling it might work. Ural stands silently for a moment, overwhelmed by the sudden change. Sora asks with concern if the landlady is feeling all right. Overcome with emotion, Ural pulls Sora into a tight, grateful embrace. Tears of pure gratitude stream down Ural's face as she holds her savior. Sora blushes, a gentle and happy smile gracing her features. She squeezes Sora's hand tightly, conveying her immense gratitude. The two women hold hands, a powerful new bond forged between them. Toru watches the scene unfold with a quiet, knowing smile. A muffled voice complains that Grandma EU is hugging too tight to breathe. Mew is comically squished between them, her face a mask of panic. The chaotic but happy scene settles around the dinner table. Night falls over the peaceful boarding house under a crescent moon. The next day, the party arrives at a surprisingly empty adventure bureau. Toru explains the high rankers have left now that the mission is over. Sora says she and Mu will draw, promising not to overdo it. Toru and Ural prepare to register, with their counting on his guidance. The registration counter is manned by the young receptionist, Marika. Toru notes that despite the emptiness, some people are being quite loud. Toru gestures for the landlady to follow him to a specific counter. Marika asks politely if they wish to register a new adventure. The receptionist is stunned by Ural's radiant, youthful beauty. Marika stammers a welcome, completely flustered by the beautiful elf. Ural introduces herself with a gentle smile, pleased to meet Marika. Ural happily notes she can read the form clearly without glasses. Toru reminds them that a sponsor's tag is required for registration. Marika reads the form, noting her age is 22, and she is from Stola. Marika connects her long ears to her homeland and approves the form. He explains they registered her as her own granddaughter using a shorter name. Marika asks her to place her hand on the soul analyzer for assessment. Ural touches the orb and Toru watches with a knowing expression. A wave of immense magical power flows from her hand into the orb. Toru is again blown away by her skill tree's power and maturity. He notes that 4 of her powerful skills have already been maxed out. Marika is completely starstruck, telling Ural how cool she is. Marika assesses her power, concluding she is at least C rank, maybe B. With a burst of excitement, Marika officially declares her a B-rank adventurer. Toru objects, but the annoyed Marika tells him to stop butting in. Toru thinks to himself that this sudden ranked change will be very troublesome. A diagram illustrates the rule. A 2-rank gap prevents party formation. Toru glances toward another counter, where a noble woman is causing a scene. The senior receptionist, Ina, maintains her polite yet firm composure. Toru interrupts, asking Marika to pause the registration process. Marika eagerly agrees to wait, happy to oblige the beautiful elf. Blushing, Marika asks if she can touch Ural's beautiful hair in return. The noble woman demands and reveal the anonymous hero's name. Ina declines, explaining even initials could compromise their anonymity. In it, Bettina grows frustrated with the lack of progress in her inquiry. She demands to know the hero's age, seeing it as a compromise. Toru steps in, calmly stating that he is currently 39 years old. Toru approaches and his counter, asking if she has a free moment. Bettina looks over, surprised by the unexpected interruption. He explains to Anna that his friend is being given a high rank. Ina explains the new system makes the rank permanent and unchangeable. Toru realizes he can no longer use a skill to alter her tree. A man from the guild staff politely excuses himself for interrupting. He introduces himself as Shika, assuming Toru wants to form a party. Shika says the most they can do is lower her rank to C. He notes their party must still reach E rank to join with her. He offers them priority access to the E rank promotion trial. The Dungeon's Lord, the Hobgoblin Chief, has likely respawned by now. Toru considers the offer and agrees to take on the trial. Bettina is surprised, remarking the hero is older than she expected. Toru cheekily admits he lied about his age, shocking the noble woman. Her butler suggests that was also a lie, leaving her utterly confused. Bettina huffs, saying she was merely curious about the hero's appearance. As Toru turns to leave, she insists she has not finished speaking. She points at him, issuing a challenge to defeat the dungeon lord first. Her butler reminds her that the small dungeon only allows one party at a time. She concedes, telling Toru that he can have the first attempt. Goten again reminds her they are not even registered to attempt it. She points at the departing Toru, warning him to watch his back. Grasping Toru's armored arm, Mu innocently asks if her Tuchan is going for a bath. The noble woman Bettina stares in disbelief, wondering aloud if Toru is married with a child. Sora clings to Toru's arm playfully, announcing to the shocked woman that she is his wife. Godin, the butler, tries to calm his mistress, explaining that Sora is just one of Toru's associates. Sora introduces herself and Mu, then cheerfully invites the stunned noblewoman to join them for a bath. Bettina introduces herself and Godin, though Teru silently wishes he could avoid the acquaintance. Godin offers a small candy to Mu as a token of their meeting, which she happily accepts. Bettina bids them a dramatic farewell, telling Mu to enjoy the sweet until they meet again. As the pair departs, Toru watches them go, quietly wondering what their deal is. A close-up shows a beautifully carved comb gliding smoothly through long, silky hair. Marika, the guild receptionist, admires Urel's hair, complimenting the fine boxwood comb she's using. Urel smiles, recommending the comb for being gentle on the hair, despite its price. A guild official named Shika arrives, apologizing to Urusama for the delay. On a wooden tray, he presents a brand new adventure tag with a striking black frame. Irel thanks him as Sora compliments the tag's mature look and mood cheers for her adventuring grandma. Ural holds the new tag, a symbol of her return, a quiet, thoughtful look on her face. Toru watches over his party, his own adventurer tag hanging from his neck, a faint smile playing on his lips. Latoru apologizes for the wait, but Yuru kindly assures him that it was not his fault. Marika is still distraught that Ural isn't a Barank, as her colleague tells her to get back to work. Ural tells Toru she will wait patiently for him, and he promises to conquer the cave and catch up. Sora and Mu confidently reassure Ural that their conquest will be over in the blink of an eye. The scene shifts to the verdant, sprawling canopy of the goblin forest. The day after the registration, Toru, Sora, and Mu head for the ominous goblin cave. Their mission is to conquer the dungeon and defeat the hobgoblin chief within 15 days. Toru looks back over his shoulder, knowing that their task will not be simple. A group of rugged miners carrying picks and heavy packs march along the forest path. The dungeon is known for its valuable minerals, which sparkle within the cavern walls. Because of this, any party exploring the cave is obligated to ensure the miners' safety. The constant stream of miasma means a defeated hobgoblin respawns in just 2 hours. This harsh reality means the miners can only work during designated safe hours. Sora asks if they can explore while the miners work, but Toru explains it's forbidden. They have no choice but to take turns clearing monsters and waiting for the miners. Toru announces to the miners that they are ready to begin exploring the first floor. One of the miners whispers to his friend, expressing doubt about a party with a child. The lead miner states that since the Bureau approved it, all they can do is wait. Toru, Sora, and Moose step into the oppressive darkness of the cave entrance. Sora finds the darkness overwhelming and reaches for a lantern, but Toru stops her. She despairs, admitting she can't even take a single step in the pitch-black environment. Toru has an idea, deciding they will use Mu's eyes, which are excellent in the dark. Mu confidently declares that they can leave it all to her. Suddenly, the twisting, rocky passages of the cavern are revealed in perfect clarity. Sora is amazed by Mu's power, while the little girl puffs out her chest with pride. A glowing rock, a makeshift light source, shines brightly in a gloom. Toru strikes the glowing rock with his sword, sending a shower of sparks into the air. He remarks that the monsters have shown up faster than he expected. The heavy, shuffling footsteps of goblins echo through the dark cavern. Toru orders Sora and Mu to follow at a distance, as Sora confirms the command. He hurls the glowing rock into the darkness, creating a diversion for the approaching enemy, with his sword held ready. He braces himself for the goblins' charge. 2 snarling goblins, armed with crude blades, leap from the shadows to attack. In a flash of steel, Toru decapitates both monsters with a single brutal slash. Another goblin hurls a large rock at him with surprising speed and force. Toru catches the projectile and smashes it back into the goblin's face. The goblin is sent flying backward, its skull gruesomely caved in by the impact. He finishes off another attacker with a powerful, well-aimed kick to the chest. Outside, the miners joke that it will be a while, so they might as well have lunch. A miner's jaw drops as he sees the party already emerging from the cave. The miners ask if they've already given up, but Toru calmly says they are done. He informs the stuntmen that the first floor is clean and they can now go in. He holds up a large, grisly bundle of goblin ears as proof of their work. The entire group of miners can only stare their mouths agape in utter disbelief. One of them nervously asks if it's truly safe, and Toru confirms it is. Sora and Moot cheerfully add that they cleaned everything up real nice. The head miner snaps his crew out of their stupor, yelling that it's time to work. The miners, now energized, rush into the cave entrance with their tools. Sora looks over at Toru, her eyes drawn to his waistline. She points out that his sword belt is sagging, and he admits that it is old. When she asks if he can restore it, he explains his skill doesn't work on combat gear. With the miners busy, Toru decides they will clear the monsters in the surrounding area. Move spend her time happily playing with the miners, stacking rocks into a neat pile. Toru asks what Mu is doing, and Sora explains that she's having fun with her new friends. Mu complains to Toru that she's getting tired of doing the same thing over and over. As the days pass, the number of miners grows, their trust in the party solidified. Several days later, a new party arrives at the cave to provide guard duty. Saison's party greets Toru and Sora warmly, their old rivalry forgotten. Toru greets them back, asking if they will also guard the miners on their way home. Saison's party members credit Toru for helping them find their courage and skill. They playfully tease each other about their improved teamwork and fighting prowess. Toru watches their friendly exchange with a faint, proud smile on his face. A wide shot shows the vast cloud-filled sky above the forest. Saison and his friends approach Toru, saying they have an earnest request for him. They hold up their mining picks, hinting at what their favor might be. Toru agrees, noting that they have already renounced their mining rights for this trip. Saison's party celebrates, and Mood joins in, giving them all enthusiastic high fives. Mu declares that she also wants to dig, but Toru firmly tells her no. She explains that smashing piles of rocks is really fun, but Toru is unconvinced. Toru scratches his chin, thoughtfully contemplating the child's destructive tendencies. He strikes a deal, promising to help her dig after they finish clearing the goblins. 5 days into their exploration, a large wooden crate is filled with valuable crystals. The lead miner admits they had no expectations, but progress has been remarkably fast. Another miner jokes that anyone would be deceived by how cute Sora and Mu are. The lead miner asks Toru if he plans to attempt the second floor the next day. He sincerely apologizes for ever doubting them, having heard how they saved the lumberjacks. Toru dismisses the apology with a weary smile, saying that he is used to it. With 10 days remaining, the sun sets over the entrance to the goblin cave. The party heads to the armorer's shop to get new gear for the second floor. Ramu, the armorer, greets them with a booming voice, surprised by their quick return. The whole party greets him warmly, with Mu affectionately calling the old man Gramps. Ramu turns to Mu with a smile, asking if she wants to try on her new outfit. In their new gear, Toru, Sora, and Mu stand ready for the final day of the conquest. Sora twirls in her new custom-made winter gear, asking Toru if it suits her. The armorer, Ramu, explains the adjustments and Sora confirms she understands a fit. Mu asks Ramu what the warm, fuzzy item is that he's putting on her head. A hat made from a skin of a red hippo, he replies as she stares amazed. He asks if she likes it, and she exclaims that it feels weird, but she loves it. Filled with a sudden burst of energy, Mu begins to shadowbox with gusto. She throws a series of playful punches in the direction of a startled Sora. Her energetic flurry continues, landing harmlessly against an unmoving Toru. Mu proudly shows off one of our new bracers, a special piece of equipment. Sora squeezes it, noting its strange texture as Ramu explains its unique properties. Ramu muses that it is far too early for Toru to give up on adventuring. The group flusters at his cute wife and daughter remark while he roars with laughter. Sora admires Toru's beautiful new mantle, and Mu declares that he is shiny. Ramu explains it is made from the skin of a blue-striped serpent, a robust material. Sora is shocked to learn that the high-grade material is worth 20 silver coins. She points in sudden realization as Ramu and Toru share a knowing glance. Ramu reveals they used Taurus restoration to cleverly cut extra material from a repair. He then asks about their progress, noting the rushed order suggests they are in a hurry. Toru admits it's a race against time due to the dungeon's mining customs. He sighs, wishing that they had a little more help for the task ahead. Ramu agrees, observing that the miners would only be a burden in a real fight. As Toru considers this, a sudden spark of an idea flashes in his eyes. He grins at a confused Rambo, declaring that they can, in fact, do it. Mew interrupts, presenting a small, glowing pouch to the armor. She thanks him for the pouch with a bright and cheerful smile. Ramu is curious, asking to see what she has been keeping inside it. He is completely baffled to find it filled with valuable magic stones. Having no idea what they are for, he asks Mu for an explanation. Sora explains the stones are fuel for Mu's favorite floating sled, a Hanimaru. She adds that Toru was fuming because Mu used the sled far too much. Now, she earns the stones as a salary for her hard work as an adventurer. Ramu laughs heartily, patting Mu's head as Toru announces their departure. The party leaves the shop as Ramu waves a cheerful farewell from the doorway. Sora turns back, telling Ramu that she has something she wants him to make for her. She leans in close, whispering a secret request into the armorer's ear. He agrees with his smile, saying something like that will only take a couple of days. The party, now fully equipped for the challenges ahead, finally departs. They descend into the oppressive darkness of the Goblin Cave's second underground floor. They're immediately ambushed, and Toru definitely deflects a rock thrown by Goblin. It becomes a whirlwind of motion, carving a path through the charging horde. His sword in a glowing rock cut through the monsters with brutal efficiency. Suddenly, a dark, smoking projectile flies past his shoulder from the shadows. The glob of magic splatters against his new mantle, sizzling on impact. The corrosive attack is completely absorbed by the miasma-infused snakeskin. From the darkness, a hooded hobgoblin shaman hisses its spell, having failed. Toru grits his teeth, realizing the shaman's teamwork has gotten much better. But he prepares to engage the new threat, his sword held at the ready. Mu asks about the amazing smell as Sora recoils from the corrosive magic's aura. Mu playfully prods the smoking spot with her staff, finding the situation fun. The corrosive magic finally burns itself out in a final puff of acrid smoke. Sora worriedly asks Toru if he was hit by the strange attack. He reassures her, showing that the mantle is completely unharmed by the miasma. He reminds her that he had the mantle made specifically for this purpose. Sora stares at the spot where the magic hit, a thoughtful expression on her face. She asks Toru if she can try out an idea that just came to her. Toru looks on, curious to see what she has planned. Sora places her hand over the affected area of the mantle. With a surge of focus, she unleashes her unique skill, Reversal. A puff of white smoke erupts from the fabric as her power takes effect. Toru draws his dagger, sensing a distinct change in the mantle's aura. Sora realizes she has reversed the defense-reducing effect, making the mantle stronger. Toru smiles. Understanding this new tactic is the key to conquering the labyrinth. He tells Sora that if she keeps this up, it will be their path to victory. Mu, ever literal, perks up and asks if this key is something tasty to eat. The head miner overhears their confident planning and asks if they're sure they'll be okay. He says that he trusts them, but his expression reveals his lingering doubt. He decides to use his authority, allowing their unconventional plan to proceed. Toru explains that living as an adventurer teaches you to find creative solutions. The head miner agrees to the plan, but only until the end of the first floor. Toru then turns to Sison, asking him to stand by his backup just in case. Sison and his party readily agree, telling Toru to leave it to them. They watch from the cave entrance as Toru's small party disappears into the darkness. Rikaru wonders aloud if the old guy will be all right on his own. He finds a plan to aggro all the goblins from the second floor to be absurd. Hisoka realizes this means Toru is fighting them all at once for the miners' sake. Rikaru is shocked and silenced by this act of selfless bravery. Hisoka remarks that the selfish guy he once knew has started thinking of others. Sison tells his party it's time, and they prepare to enter the cave. He tells them to stop chattering and focus, though they probably won't have much to do. The miners, pickaxes at the ready, declare that they're going in too. An hour later, the first floor is cleared, littered with goblin corpses. Deep in the cavern, Toru's party stands amidst the carnage they have wrought. Toru asks Mu to use her radar to take a look at their surroundings. She proudly shows him the impressive tower of rocks she has been stacking. She asks if the scan can wait as she is very excited about her rocks right now. At Toru's firm insistence, she reluctantly activates her electric radar. A massive pulse of energy expands from her small body, sweeping the cavern. The radar's wave washes over the entire second floor in an instant. Mu's eye widens in pure terror as she sees a massive horde of goblins. Toru confirms the plan worked, telling Sora to stand her ground and cover his back. He asks Mu to pinpoint the location of the closest enemies in the horde. A wave of muscular hobgoblins charges towards them with a ferocious battle cry. The horde descends upon them from all sides, a sea of monstrous faces. Toru becomes a blur of motion, carving a path of destruction through the monsters. Sissen's party arrives at the passageway between the first and second floors. Rikaru curses, seeing that Toru has already taken care of everything. The head miner is in awe of that. Just 3 people clear the entire floor in an hour. This brutal, efficient cycle continued for over a week, numbing the miners to the slaughter. On the final day, the party stands at the entrance to the now conquered cave. Bettina and her butler arrive, mockingly asking if the plain old hero has won yet. At the cave entrance, the noblewoman Bettina justifies her presence with a smile. Her butler, Godin, gently reminds her they aren't rivals yet, causing her to blush. Sora greets Bettina warmly, who insists on the more familiar nickname, Betty. Betty admires the quality of Sora's shirt and asks where she bought it. Sora is thrilled and eagerly agrees to take her to the shop sometime. Nearby, the little girl stares intently at the flamboyant noblewoman. Betty remarks on how energetic, yet still predictably small, Mu is. Suddenly, Mu rushes forward and lands a solid punch in Bettina's stomach. A shocked Bettina asks why she's being hit. Mu declares they're rivals. Godin smoothly intervenes, praising Mu's spirit and offering her candy. Mu, instantly won over, offers to make the kind butler her personal underling. Misunderstanding his talk of pay, she offers her pouch of magic stones. Godin sighs, limiting his choice of employer but reaffirming his loyalty. With the chaotic interruption over, Toru announces it is time for the final floor. Sora and Mu echo his readiness. Their face is set with determination. Their allies, the miners' insistence party, see them off with shouts of encouragement. Bettina wishes them the best, though Godin notes their victory means she loses. Having conquered the first 2 floors, the party descends into the dungeon's heart. They move through the dark, rocky passage, their senses on high alert. Sora observes that the entire 3rd floor appears to be a single massive room. A vast cavern opens before them, a swirling black hole pulsing at its center. Mu points a trembling finger, warning Toru of a presence in the shadows. The monstrous hobgoblin chief rises, its powerful muscles tensed for battle. Far away, the peaceful boarding house stands quietly under a cloudy sky. But inside, Yuro prepares a meal as the 2 stray cats, Kuro and Shima, watch. She places a small plate with several slices of meat on the wooden floor. She tells the cats this is all they get until their family returns. The final battle, titled Use as Planned, is about to commence. Toru tells Mu he's counting on her as she chants to activate her power. His face set with determination, Toru is wreathed in crackling lightning. He reflects on Mu's incredible progress over the past 15 days of training. Sora grips her staff tightly. Her expression is serious and ready for the fight. Toru smiles, teasing Sora for being so eager now that he is pumped up. He gives her a confident, reassuring look before turning to face the monster. Wreathed in lightning, he charges forward to meet the dungeon's lord. The hobgoblin chief lets out a deafening, earth-shaking roar of challenge. Toru moves like a blur, his cape whipping behind him as he attacks. The cavern floor cracks and shatters under the force of their initial clash. The chief swings its massive club, its face contorted in a furious snarl. Toru effortlessly parries the blow, his sword deflecting the powerful weapon. His eyes are cold and focused as he prepares his devastating counterattack. The monster's powerful swing is completely nullified, its force dissipated. Toru spins with impossible speed, his blade arcing in a powerful slash. A single drop of blood falls from the monster's lip, a sign of injury. He leaps gracefully over the chief's prone body, seeking another opening. He lands another swift strike, his enhanced speed overwhelming the beast. He pauses for a breath, his sword held ready, assessing his opponent. He wonders aloud if the powerful monster was always this slow. Bubbles begin to froth from the chief's mouth, signaling a powerful attack. From a safe distance, his companions shout words of encouragement to him. The monster's eye glows with a malevolent, focused energy. It brings its club down in a massive overhead swing meant to crush him. Toru's eyes narrow, his focus absolute as he prepares to meet the blow. He brings his sword up, meeting the powerful attack head-on. His gauntlet glows brightly, and he realizes his audacious plan has worked. He tells Sora that stacking her reversal skill was worth the effort. The buff only lasts a few minutes, but grants a toughness surpassing dragon skin. He reveals that his sword has also gained this incredible temporary property. The hobgoblin chief reels back, its weapon arms stunned by the shocking impact. With a resounding BM, Toru's enhanced blade smashes into the chief's side. He unleashes a whirlwind of strikes, overwhelming the monster's defenses. Gritting his teeth, he raises his glowing sword for the final, decisive blow. He brings the blade down with immense force, cleaving through the beast. The chief is thrown back, its body dissolving in a cloud of dust. The black hole at the center of the room implodes with a flash of light. Toru watches calmly as the dungeon's power source vanishes from existence. The cavern is filled with a cloud of dust from the collapsing vortex. He reflects that this is his first time seeing a black hole disappear. Sora and Mu rush towards him, cheering his incredible hard-won victory. They tackle him in a joyous group hug, relieved and immensely proud. He smiles, reminding them that they aren't done yet. A prize awaits. He kneels by the spot where the vortex disappeared, searching for the fruit. A new skill, Accelerated Healing, is granted to him for his victory. He muses that it's a bit redundant, but could be useful for small ones. He calls Sora and Mu over, instructing them to touch the skill fruit. The two girls tentatively reach out, their hands hovering over the prize. Mu receives Physical Strengthening, a very useful skill for an adventurer. She understands that increased leg strength is vital for her job. Sora is next receiving the skill Pain Relief from the fruit. She's confused, but Toru explains it a good skill for a vanguard. He clarifies that it only works on wounds that would cause fainting. Sora laments that she received a skill that doesn't really suit her role. Taru notes that sadly, none of them got a skill for a rearguard. Sora stares at the empty space, a thoughtful silence falling over her. She notices the dungeon's walls are not yet collapsing as they should be. She asks if they are done, worried the roof might fallen on them. Toru asks her to test if her reverse skill works on the fruit. Sora holds the fruit, but her power has no effect on it. A strange, pulsating skill fruit rests in her hands, unresponsive. She concludes it doesn't work on things that aren't considered attacks. The party begins to walk away from the now empty pedestal. Toru suddenly stops, his boots scuffing against the cavern floor. A vision flashes through his mind, revealing the history of the stone slab. A sly grin spreads across his face as he formulates an audacious plan. He turns to Sora and Mu, telling them both to stand back. He directs them to a safe spot away from the center of the room. He leaps into the air and invokes his ultimate power, Restore. Sora lets out a terrified scream as the world rewinds around them. The hobgoblin chief reappears, its massive arm lashing out to grab her. Mu reacts instantly, preparing to counter the resurrected dungeon lord. The hobgoblin chief viciously grabs Sora, yanking her back by her long hair. Caught completely off guard, Sora cries out in pain as the monster holds her fast. Toru screams her name, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. Helpless in its grip, Sora's eyes are squeezed shut in agony. His mind flashes back to a similar tragedy for 9 years ago. He remembers the horrific attack on Dayton, a monster looming over a child. He recalls fighting desperately, trying to protect the innocent from the slaughter. The memory of that chaotic battle and his failure continues to haunt him, but he realizes this time is different. He is no longer the same man. He's not alone anymore. He yells a sharp, decisive command to Mu. Mu answers his call with a determined cry of Rirai. A bolt of lightning from her electric spine zaps the chief's hand. The hobgoblin chief grunts in pain, its grip on Sora momentarily loosening. Sora's eyes widen as she is suddenly freed from the monster's grasp. The electrical shock course is, through the beast, stunning it for a crucial second. Seizing the opening, Toru's gaze hardens with deadly intent. He surges forward, a blur of motion, his cloak billowing behind him. With a sharp exhale, he unleashes his final, decisive attack. Toru asks if Sora is okay. She thanks him while Mu apologizes. Relieved that the danger has passed, the three of them share a warm smile. Sora notes that her hair didn't hurt much thanks to her new skill. Mu points out that there's another stone slab on the ground. Toru reaches down, placing his hand on the mysterious second slab. He is granted a new skill, Physical Strengthening, boosting his power. He realizes using Restore on the slab resets the labyrinth for another conquest. He instructs Sora and Mu to touch the stone as well. Sora touches it and gains Accelerated Healing, allowing for faster recovery. Mu gains the powerful skill, Magic Power Strengthening, becoming even stronger. Sora tells me how nice it is that she got such a great skill. Toru looks on, a thoughtful and calculating expression on his face. He notes he has 6 uses of Restore left for the day. He calculates they can safely repeat this process 2 more times. Sora and Mu ask him what he plans to do next. He tells Mu to use her skills and for Sora to stay close. With a flash of light, he activates the stone slab once more. On their third run, they gain pain relief and other useful skills. Their fourth conquest grants them all magical power, strengthening, and more. Toru announces that everyone now has all 4 new passive skills. Sora asks if they need the chief's ear as proof of their kill. Sora notes the lack of magic stones, while Mu declares she's hungry. Toru reminds them that the mission isn't over until they're outside. The triumphant trio stands together, ready to exit the collapsing dungeon. Outside, a crowd of miners' insistence party awaits their return. As they emerge, the crowd erupts in a wave of thunderous applause. Mu waves excitedly as the grateful adventurers surround them. Behind them, the goblin cave collapses in a cloud of dust and debris. The ground settles, leaving only cracked earth where the dungeon once stood. Their journey concludes back at the Adventure Bureau's assessment counter. Ina welcomes them back, asking how their difficult quest went. Toru admits the 2-week time limit made it a rough ordeal. The head miner confirms the dungeon is gone, calling them genuine adventurers. He shakes Toru's hand, saying he looks forward to their future growth. Ina offers her sincere congratulations to Toru, Sora, and Mu. She presents them with their new, hard-earned E-rank adventure plates. Leaving the guild, Sora spots their landlady, Ural, waiting for them. With Mu asleep on his back, Toru and Sora walk towards Ural. Chapter 17 begins titled To the Next Place, showing them in town. Ural asks if it's okay for her to join their celebration. Mu, waking up, excitedly asks Toru if they're having a feast. Toru simply smiles, humming thoughtfully in response to her excitement. Their destination for the celebration is the familiar choice bar. Sora asks Toru if this is really the right place for them. The tavern door clangs open and a voice welcomes them inside. Choi greets them, saying they've already started the celebration. Toru apologizes for keeping them waiting as he enters the bar. Ural graciously thanks their host for inviting her to the party. Choi welcomes them warmly, gesturing for them to come further inside. He points to an open spot at the table, inviting them to sit. Moon knows that it's narrow and there's only one chair left. Toru wordlessly pats his lap, offering it as a seat. Sora happily jumps on his lap, but he says it will be hard to eat. He tells her to switch with Mu as he was offering it to the child. Mu beams with delight while Sora puffs out her cheeks in disappointment. Dating greets them, but Mu asks who the old man is. Toru explains that he's the man who asked him to fix the wall. Sora recalls that he used to have shaggy hair and a beard. Toru explains with a laugh that he used restoration to restore his hair. A steaming bowl of choice signature stew sits on the table. Plates of caterpillar legs and meatballs are brought out to the table. Troy declares that tonight's meal is on him, and they can eat all they like. Saku immediately orders the most expensive 20-year-old hot sake. Sako offers a sip to Ural, who politely accepts. Seeing her enjoyment, Saku asks the master for another glass for her. Choi excitedly bellows for a whole barrel and some boiled beans. Toru orders his usual meal of potatoes, sausage, and black bread. He asks for 2 non-alcoholic orange juices for the younger members. He tells Mu that she can order whatever she would like to eat. Mu points to the caterpillar legs and asks what the other dish is. Sora takes a large bite of the delicious-looking food. Sora exclaims how soft and delicious the meatballs are. Choi explains they're made of ground, rock, lizard, fat, and cartilage. Mu and Sora agree that the meatballs are delicious. Sora pauses, holding her food, a thoughtful expression on her face. She wonders aloud how it can possibly be this delicious. Choi chuckles, pleased by her genuine appreciation for his cooking. He offers her a taste of his special steaming hot stew. Sora exclaims that the stew is incredibly tasty. She asks how he made the broth, but he says it's a secret. He explains that the key to its flavor is in the preparation. Sora understands that to be good at anything, the basics are important. A whimsical, upside-down view shows Mu's face from inside a bowl of food. Mu points to a meatball, declaring it looks tasty, but Toru warns her it's spicy. Ignoring his warning that it will sting, she happily dunks the meatball into a sauce. With a loud chomp, she takes a big, satisfied bite, her eyes closed in bliss. The spiciness hits instantly and massive tears begin to drip down her shocked face. She lets out a wail of pure agony as Toru sighs that he did warn her. Crying, she buries her face in Ural's embrace, blaming a stupid toucan. Toru looks on, wryly remarking that is precisely why she should listen to him. Her small hands clutch desperately at Ural's robes as she continues to sob. Mu lets out loud, sad wails, her face completely hidden in Ural's lap. Toru reflects that while he can restore a mouth, he can't fix her mood. Ural gently pulls the hiccuping child into a warm and comforting hug. Dayton and Saku watch with nostalgic smiles, reminded of their own stubborn children. Toru notes her recent selfishness, which Dayton explains is something to be nurtured. Dayton continues his lesson, stating that the most important thing is to give love. When Toru asks what to do, Dayton advises against scolding, suggesting company instead. He explains that this selfish feeling is simply the other side of motivation's coin. Dayton concludes that Toru should let her vent and listen patiently to her. As year-old pours him a drink, Dayton beams, feeling young again in her presence. Sora watches the tender moment, a surprised but warm expression on her face. Trying to help, Sora points something out to the still pouting moon. She excitedly tells Mood to look at the ornate crest on the mister's chest. A close-up reveals a metallic swirling crest in the shape of a flower. Moo's eyes light up, exclaiming that it looks just like her sled Ohana Maru. Toru sips his drink, a faint smile on his face as he listens. Choi explains the crest is from a multi-headed snake, the boss of a labyrinth. Well, Moo decides that she understands now. He must be Mr. Flower. Dayton pats the lovely child on the head, amused by her innocent nickname. Saku teases Dayton, saying Flower Grandpa is not a name that suits him. Mo then turns her focus to Saku, pointing out his perpetually sleepy eyes. Dayton roars with laughter, declaring that the menacing Saku is also being spoiled. Saku glares back at Dayton, clearly unamused by the new line of teasing. Moo chimes in that she is busy too, as her job is very hard. With a determined thumbs up, she vows to work hard and stack the stones. The entire group, including Toru and Ural, soaks in a warm, celebratory atmosphere. Taru quietly thanked Sora, saying she did a good job pointing out the crest. Inspired by their talk, Sora tells him she's going to be a fine broth. Toru admits he doesn't quite understand, but he has high hopes for her. The next day, Dating confirms the number of recovered rainstones is suspiciously low. The scene shifts to the imposing exterior of the Adventurers Bureau. Moot cheerfully greets Dayton, saying she hasn't seen the mister since yesterday. Dayton smiles, asking if they are already leaving for the new hunting grounds. Ural stands ready for their journey in a stunning new white adventuring outfit. Dayton, blushing slightly, tells Ural that her new attire suits her perfectly. Moog gets Dayton's attention as Ural and Sora thank him for his help. Holding Moo, Dayton asks if she knows anything about the missing magic crystals. Saku grimly speculates they were likely taken to another city and sold there. Dayton clenches his fist, concluding that the Wind User Company must be involved. Mo playfully clings to Dayton's leg, muttering to herself as they prepare to leave. Dayton tries to get the little girl to let go, but she holds on tight. Saku catches Moo as she stumbles, claiming his hand simply slipped. "Move thanks, Mr. Sleepyhead," tapping his cheek as his subordinates look on, shocked. Saku dismisses his concerned men with a sharp wave of his hand. Move bids farewell to Mr. Flower as they finally prepare to depart. Dayton gives Moo a final pat on the head, telling her he will see her later. Tweru taps Dayton on the shoulder, getting his attention before they go. Dayton reminds Toru that the non-interference period ends now that he is ear-ranked. Toru recalls his bold promise to reach the A-ranker's position in half a year. The party stands ready. Move position proudly between Toru and Saku. Saku offers a final grave warning. The next hunting grounds are not ordinary. The wagon will spins with a lurch as their journey begins with a shout. A horse-drawn carriage pulls away from the city, kicking up a cloud of dust. The party rides in the open-air seats, enjoying the view as they leave town. Their wagon travels through a vast open landscape on its 4-hour journey north. Under the bright sun, Moo, who had been so excited, begins to doze off. Sora gazes out at the passing scenery, telling Toru that she is bored. He explains he must stay on guard duty, but she is free to sleep. Sora insists she wants to talk, reminding him that adventurers should rest when possible. Ural, with Mua's sleep on one leg, offers her other one for Toru. Both Toru and Moo are shown sleeping soundly, nestled against Ural and Sora. Toru politely declines the offer, smiling and saying maybe next time. Sora cheerfully invites him to use her lap instead, patting it invitingly. He turns the offer back on her, saying he'd rather she lay on him. Ural watches the playful, romantic exchange with a gentle, knowing smile, blushing. Sora says she will wait until they are alone so she isn't distracted. She reaffirms her goal to level up her reversal skill during this expedition. With a determined expression, she declares once more that she will be a fine broth. Toru and Ural look on, sharing a smile that Sora's unique personal goal. Their wagon rattles to a stop before a rustic log cabin by a river. Toru gently wakes Moo, who sleepily asks if it is time for breakfast. The party enters the spacious wood-paneled interior of the local adventure bureau. Toru is surprised to see the silhouette of a receptionist already at the counter. He approaches the man, asking if he is the receptionist and noting he is a newcomer. A flamboyant man with red hair turns with a charming smile and welcomes them. He formally welcomes them to the Adventure Bureau departure point, the River of Blood. A title car announces Chapter 18, River of Blood, set at the outpost. The man introduces himself as Rishi of the Deep Green, the local receptionist. The party introduces themselves with Mu demanding meatballs without the yellow stuff. Rishi smiles, saying he will first explain the transportation situation to them. He explains the single daily wagon and recommends booking reservations on weekends. Toru questions this, noting he saw 3 wagons, not 1 passenger carriage. Rishi moves on, explaining the area is crowded with over 100 adventurers. He asked them to hunt in their appropriate grounds to avoid any confusion. Rishi gives a slight, knowing nod as he lays out the rules. A map shows the river divided into downstream, middle, and upstream abyss areas. If Toru understands that to rank up, they must hunt 10 rage hippopotamuses upstream. Rishi notes that the story is a bit different due to the crowding. He vaguely mentions a Liberation Day hunt that requires discussing with other adventurers. Toru immediately senses the implicit meaning behind a receptionist's careful phrasing. Rishi flusters, admitting he'd like to help, but they are short on staff. Rishi gestures towards a wall of loaner equipment, offering it for their use. He concludes his orientation, and Toru confirms they have no more questions. The receptionist then presents a clipboard, asking them to sign the visitor list. Mu's eyes light up, asking if she can draw, but Teru gently corrects her, with a pout. Mo rests her head on the counter in silent protest. Toru recalls Director Dayton's advice to not be stubborn and listen to her. He smiles, turning it into a challenge to see if she can write her name. Moose springs to life, confidently declaring that he can leave it to her. Nearby, Sora and Urel share a quiet, amused laugh at the heartwarming scene. Mew proudly holds up the clipboard, her name scrawled in a charmingly childish hand. Toru pats her head, his voice warm with praise as he says, "Well done." Rishi takes the list, his eyes lingering on Toru's familiar name. Toru explains they likely crossed paths during his long years in the Goblin's forest. Rishi reminds Ural of the wagon schedule for their 2-day stay. Ural offers her thanks for his kindness with a gentle, knowing smile. Outside, Mu excitedly points to other adventurers gathering rocks by the river. She asks if it is her turn but is told they're collecting iron sand. Toru notes the rocks contain red iron, the same as their official class name. He realizes the local classes are named for the materials found in the region. Ural looks out over the strange river, a sight she never saw as an adventurer. She recounts the local lore of its mysterious flow from the great abyss. Mu asks if they can clean in the water, but Toru sternly warns her against it. The miasma-laced water, he explains, is highly corrosive and dangerous. The party walks along the unwelcoming rocky shore of the blood-red river. Mu gestures to a collection of tints, asking Toru what they are. He explains they are adventurous camps, and they must find their own spot. From the shadows, other adventurers whisper, recognizing the infamous Mud collecting old man. They also spot Mu on her sled, wondering if she's a demoted adventurer. Toru finds a seemingly empty spot and decides they will build their camp there. He and Sora begin assembling the poles for their tent. An armored adventurer aggressively confronts them, asking what they are doing. The man stands with his hands on his hips, his expression full of contempt. Taru says they are hunting, but the man claims the spot is reserved. Toru calmly points out the complete lack of any signs indicating this. The man insists the spot is taken, telling them to check with the neighbors. Growing impatient, he waves them off, telling them to go away. 10 minutes later, they find another large, empty space for their tent. As Toru approaches, he sees a lone figure sitting by a small tent. People lightly ask a hooded figure if they can hunt in the area. The figure wordlessly draws a line in the dirt with their smoking pipe. The line becomes a large, ominous X on a rough wooden sign. Toru asks if it's a bad place, and the figure gives a cryptic warning. They explain that the spot becomes dangerous once the rain begins to fall. Toru understands the danger of rising water and moves on with a huff. His face shows his growing frustration with the unwelcoming territory. The party continues their search while Moose sleeps soundly on her sled. Sora sighs in frustration, telling Toru they cannot find a single good spot. She notices that Ural is panting, her face flushed from the long walk. He asks if she's all right, but she insists that she's fine. He realizes that while her body was rejuvenated, her endurance was not. He decides they must at least find a patch of grass to walk on. Their path leads them to a field of strange, wispy, sucking grass. It is a plant altered by miasma, repelling other creatures from the land. As Ural rests, another adventurer approaches, asking what they are doing. Toru says they are resting, but the man tells him to cut the crap. The man angrily calls Toru a thief and tells him to piss off. Mu wakes with a yawn, asking her to chawn if they are there yet. The hostile adventurer scoffs and tells them again to go away. Toru looks at the weary Ural, deciding they have no other choice. He gently lifts the exhausted elf into his arms as Sora and Mu watch. Ural apologizes for the inconvenience, but he tells her not to mind. Mu offers Grandma EU a ride on her sled, but Sora says it's impossible. Toru thinks grimly that these monsters cannot be beaten by usual means. They find another empty spot with no signs near a lone archer's tent. They approach the archer, asking if the riverbank is empty. The archer's eye narrows as he looks the party over. The view focuses for a moment on Ural's generous chest. The view then pans down to her shapely hips and thighs. The archer smirks, confirming it is empty as shadowy figures appear behind him. Finally, finding a spot, Sora announces she will unpack and ask for help. Mu excitedly runs off to collect rocks, and Toru warns her away from the river. Ural offers to help, but Toru tells her to rest and recover first. He sets up a small folding chair for her sit on. She sits, sighing that her endurance has dropped after so long. Sora playfully offers to heal Toru if he is not feeling well. He smiles, asking her to help Mu instead, and Yura agrees to watch her. Mu squats by the shore, delighted by the abundance of good rocks. Toru and Sora work together, pulling the heavy tent canvas taut. They hammer the final stake into the hard, rocky ground. With their 2 tents finally set up, Toru declares the job is finished. He shows them a small, magical heating plate he received from their master. Ural smiles as she pours 4 cups of steaming tea. Sora inhales the fragrant steam, exclaiming how good it smells. Toru calls for Mu to take a break, but she is busy perfecting her rock tower. With a final triumphant tap, Moose sends her creation toppling over. She strikes a dynamic pose filled with a sense of accomplishment. The tower of rocks explodes outwards in a dramatic stony cascade. Toru sips his tea, asking with an amused smile if she is having fun. A gentle wind blows across the rippling surface of the Red River. With their brief rest over, the party walks along the rocky shore. Toru issues his orders. He will take the front, and Sora will support him. He tells Ural she is free to move as she pleases, and she agrees. Mew cries thunder and crackling energy envelops herself and Toru. Toru spots tracks on the ground, deciding to follow them for reference. He breaks into a run, his feet kicking up dust and small stones. The camera pans across the strange, undulating surface of the river. The water ripples with an unnatural, almost viscous quality. But Toru's eyes suddenly widen as he senses an imminent threat ahead. A swarm of massive, dark-skinned brown frogs burst from the water surface. One of the creatures leaps forward, letting out a loud ribbit as it attacks. Toru leaps into action, facing a swarm of large, mottled brown frogs. Ural offers a solemn prayer, wishing the creatures a peaceful rest. She extends her hand, unleashing her powerful ice magic, Cold Slumber. The entire horde of frogs instantly falls into a deep, magical sleep. Sora is amazed while Mu declares she won't lose. Toru praises Ural's skill. Toru reflects that Cold Slumber normally only affects a single target. He realizes her unique traits prevent her from losing significant magic power. He concludes her ability to control the battlefield is simply unparalleled. With the frogs incapacitated, Toru moves in, his sore blur. He knows their poisonous skin is tough and difficult to cut through. He thinks it is much easier to fight them when they're not moving. Suddenly, an arrow whistles through the air, heading directly for him. Toru reacts in a flash, his sword deflecting the projectile. The arrow ricochets off his blade, clattering harmlessly to the ground. He grits his teeth, his expression hardening with anger at the unprovoked attack. A party of 3 archers emerges from the riverbank, their leader smirking. The deflected arrow lies embedded in the rocky ground at his feet. Toru picks up the projectile, remarking on how dangerously close it was. The lead archer offers a smug, insincere apology for the stray arrow. He dismissively demands his arrow back, saying there's no problem. Toru coldly retorts that the archer can say that to his bow. Toru's eyes narrow, his patience clearly at an end. The archer reaches out for the arrow, his expression still condescending. With a sharp crack, Toru's hand snapped a wooden shaft in 2. The archer's companions yell at the old man not to get carried away, Behind him, Sora and Mu shout for Tuchan to hang in there. Toru scratches his chin, his expression one of cold, calculated annoyance. He contemptuously drops the broken pieces of the arrow to the ground. The archer clicks his tongue in frustration as Toru turns his back. Toru tells his party he feels uneasy and they should move downstream. The archers watch them leave, spotting what they think is an opportunity. The lead archer stares maliciously at Toru's party as they retreat. He draws his bow with a cruel grin, taking aim at their backs. Toru continues walking, unaware of the second attack being prepared. The arrow is released, but flies wildly off course into the sky. The archer cries out in shock and pain as his bow seemingly misfires. His companions wonder what happened as their leader stumbles in confusion. Toru calmly states that the bow must have missed its shot. The party moves further along the river into the downstream hunting area. A title page shows the party with Toru dispatching a sleeping frog. They settle at a less popular riverbank, now flanked by the archers. This forces them to hunt in a less desirable crowded area. A spiny fish-like monster leaps from the water, ambushing Toru. The spiny dogfish unleashes a high-pressure jet of water from its mouth. The powerful water bullet streams through the air like a cannonball. Toru leaps away, the projectile narrowly missing and splashing on the ground. He grunts in frustration, water spraying across his cloak and armor. Another water bullet flies toward the surprised Sora and Mu. Sora cries out, barely managing to block the projectile with her staff. The impact sensor stumbling backward, surrounded by splashing water. Nearby, the brown frogs simply croak, observing the chaos from the river. Ural decides to fill the area with a thick, obscuring fog. She casts frozen crystal, enveloping the riverbank in a swirling, icy mist. The poisonous skin of the nearby frogs begins to freeze and crack. Toru notes that the ice magic is effective against their poison skin. The remaining frogs, terrified, quickly hop away from the battle. Toru grimaces, determined not to let his targets escape. But a spiny dogfish leaps from the water, blocking his path. He is forced to dodge yet another attack from the aggressive fish. The water bullet flies past him as he twists out of the way. He lands in a defensive stance as the attack splashes behind him. The party watches as the last of their prey escapes into the river. Sora glares at the water, angrily telling the fish they are in the way. Mu proudly claims the frogs ran because they were afraid of her. Sora apologizes to Toru, feeling she didn't support him well enough. She looks down, dejected by her performance in the chaotic fight. Toru expertly skins one of the frogs they managed to catch. Mu asks if he will eat it, but he warns her not to touch it. He notices his sword has been corroded by the frog's potent poison. He uses restoration and the blade gleams, instantly good as new. Toru reflects on the troublesome situation, his hunting plans thwarted. He wryly notes that there are not many monsters here to begin with. The party sits around their camp, drinking hot tea to warm themselves. Toru muses that only Mu is having fun, happily piling up rocks. He sips his tea, complaining that the spiny dogfish are in the way. Mu climbs onto his back, asking if he is done resting yet. Sora watches them, a warm, gentle expression on her face. She carefully places a small blanket over Mu's legs. She leans against Toru with a happy sigh, Moose still on his back. Ural smiles, remarking how well they get along. Sora invites her to join. Ural looks slightly flustered but pleased by the friendly invitation. She agrees, saying it seems nice, and settles in with them. The four adventurers sit together, a picture of quiet contentment. Mu notices Toru's expression soften and asks him why. He smiles, suggesting it might be because Mu is so cute. Mo beams with pure, unadulterated joy at his heartfelt praise. Toru sighs, thinking they can't change their hunting ground now. Ural agrees, noting that all the good places are already taken. Sora wishes the fish didn't just attack from a safe distance. She asked if they can just put the frogs back to sleep again. Ural gently advises them to let bygones be bygones for now. She explains that ice magic's effects fade with repeated use. Toru asks if monsters can develop resistance, and she confirms it. Mu asks if Toru wants her to swim out and get the monsters. Sora looks out at the river, resolving that she must do better. Toru feels unwelcomed, sensing the other adventurers are stingy. Ural adds that she isn't at her best and needs more time. Sora and Mu try to get his attention, asking if it is time to eat. Three figures in the grass wonder how long they plan to sit there. Their leader, Ralph, clicks his tongue, annoyed they have been discovered. Three adventurers hide in the tall grass, their leader trying to focus while his brothers argue. The debate rages over whether cute or mature girls are better, ending in an accusation about breast size. An off-screen scuffle erupts. punctuated by someone declaring a preference for a woman's posterior. The leader, Ruralf, drags his bickering siblings forward, offering a weary apology for the disturbance. They formally introduce themselves: Ruralf, the dependable first son; Nineras, the determined second; and Gugitav, the caring third. Niniri's fist immediately comes down on Gugitav's head, undercutting his suave introduction. Another cloud of dust signals more brotherly bickering as Toru and Mulukon. The ever-graceful Yerl offers to make tea, but Toru tells her it's not necessary. The three brothers approach Toru's party with a sincere and desperate plea for help. The two parties now sit together around a small campfire on the rocky river bank. Barolf, taking a drag from a smoke, asks Toru a question, and Toru asks what he wants. With an annoyed expression, Toru takes a sip from his cup and asks what they're doing here. Ruralf is stumped for a moment before his brothers chime in with conflicting excuses. Ruralf awkwardly plays along, pretending his brother's excuse was his plan all along. He explains he thought Toru's party, as first-timers, could use some friendly advice, and Toru asks how long they've been here. Rural replies it's been nearly 2 miserable years. Toru notes he didn't see their camp, and Ruralf explains it's further downstream where the bank is wider. A sly smile crosses Toru's face as he wonders if the hunting is better there, where Rolf laughs, dismissing the idea and confirming that downstream is just as barren. Toru cuts to the chase, asking why they don't simply go upstream. Ruralf is speechless. His expression turns grim as he admits it's not that they don't want to. They're too poor. He reveals that hunting upstream requires paying a ridiculous amount of hush money. He explains the river is divided into 3 hunting zones, with the upstream area full of valuable monsters. But the upstream area is so popular that there's a strict headcount limit, making access difficult. The midstream area, he says, is where they just were a place with only brown frogs. He warns that the midstream is also dangerous when it rains, hinting at a hidden threat. But Sora recalls a warning sign, and Ruralf confirms it marks a place where hunting is a bad idea. Finally, Gugitav describes the downstream area, where only a few spiny dogfish sometimes appear. He adds that they are a nuisance and not worth hunting, making it the worst spot on the river. Toru now understands why the area is so deserted, and Ruralf agrees it's better to wait. Ruralf adds that even the midstream has few monsters and is rife with territorial disputes. Toru realizes that in such a competitive environment, one could be charged just for being there. Ruralf confirms that other parties might accuse them of stealing their kills. He describes a common tactic used by unscrupulous adventurers to poach prey. A silhouetted figure is shown distracting a party and making off with their monster kill. He concludes that every neighboring party is a threat, noting Toru was almost a victim himself. He says that if one works hard enough in a midstream, they can eventually move up. Ruralf's expression darkens as he reveals the true obstacle: powerful factions. These factions, he explains, are self-righteous groups based on race, interested only in profit. Toru asks if they are unaffiliated, and Ruralf confirms that if they weren't, they wouldn't be stuck here. Toru understands the grim implication for an unaffiliated party trying to advance. Ruralf confirms with a grimace that this is where the hush money comes in. Their only hope, he says, is Liberation Day, when factions drive rage hippos downstream for a fee. Toru nods, realizing the meager rewards from frogs and fish would never cover the cost. He thanks Ruralf for the information, his expression thoughtful and serious. Sora, Mu, and you will listen intently, the harsh reality of their situation sinking in. And Toru, scratching his chin, decides that simply waiting is not an option for them. The brothers admit their own party's weakness. They are brawlers with no reliable magic user. Ural graciously offers the brothers more tea, which they eagerly accept. They explain that being around so many beautiful women makes them thirsty and nervous. Toru asks if they know exactly who controls the lucrative upstream hunting grounds. Barolf identifies the dominant faction as the Red Thunder, a group of Purple Eye and Red Tail tribesmen. He admits they were invited to join, but refuse because he despises their leader, Diderot. Toru asks if the local guild is aware, but Ruralf says even retired adventurers can't match the faction's power. A young adventurer recalls a rumor of someone being drowned for defying the Red Thunder's leader. Ruralf explains that the Adventure Bureau's security forces don't come this far, allowing the factions to rule with impunity. Toru looks for Rolf in the eye and asks what he plans to do about it. Depresses. Asking it for Rolf is just going to sit around and do nothing. Ruralf smirks, admitting that Toru has seen through him and that they do have a plan. His brother cuts him off, saying it's too soon to reveal it. Ruralf quickly changes the subject, telling Toru to forget what he said. In exchange for the information, he offers to teach Toru's party a useful trick. He asks if the annoying, spiny dogfish get in the way of their frog hunting. Sora and Mu both enthusiastically agree, complaining about how annoying the creatures are. Ruralf confidently tells Sora there is an easy countermeasure, piquing her interest. Sora guesses the trick is to simply fight the frogs far away from the river. She reasons that this would put them out of range of the fish's water bullets. Ruralf dismisses her idea, explaining that the frogs never wander far from the water. Sora gives up, and Ruralf promises the real trick is surprisingly simple. The three brothers give a confident thumbs up, telling Toru's party to follow their lead. The title page for Chapter 20, Hope for Hunting Ground, shows a massive brown frog leaping from the water. Toru expertly parries a lunging brown frog's attack with a loud clang of his sword. He and Ural stand ready as more frogs emerge, the three brothers watching from behind. Ruralf, Ninuraz, and Gugatav observe the fight with serious, calculating expressions. Ural closes her eyes, her long hair flowing as she whispers a spell for the frogs to rest in peace. With a howl of power, she unleashes her cold slumber skill upon a battlefield. The entire swarm of brown frogs is instantly put to sleep, floating peacefully in the water. The brothers are stunned by her power, exclaiming that they need to get a magic user for their own party. A spiny dogfish shrieks, launching a powerful water bullet from its mouth. A rock is sent flying through the air with a powerful whoosh. The rock smashes into the side of the spiny dogfish with a loud crash. The fish is knocked aside as Mu stands on the riverbank, having thrown the stone. Mu grins triumphantly proud of her successful shot. She points out another target for Sora, who now holds a rock of her own. Sora takes aim, her expression one of intense focus. Her rock hits its mark, smashing into the side of another spiny dogfish. Toru smiles, recognizing the strategy Ruralf had taught them. He recalls the lesson. The fish instinctively attack anything that moves above the water. By throwing stones from the side, they can be easily distracted, as Mu and Sora demonstrate. Toru moves in to deliver the final blow to one of the sleeping frogs. Mu gets carried away, gleefully throwing a volley of stones as Sora begs her to stop. One of her stones hits a fish with a loud pow, angering it. The angered fish turns and takes aim at the source of the rocks. Mu finds herself directly in the path of a powerful incoming water bullet. Sora watches in horror, a blush of fear spreading across her face. Ural's eyes narrow, her expression hardening with cool determination. She unleashes her ice sheet skill at half power, the air crackling with cold energy. A massive wall of solid ice erupts from the river, blocking the attack. The water bullet shatters against the ice wall, saving Mu from harm. A spiny dogfish is shown trapped and helpless, frozen solid within the ice. With a thunderous roar, a massive glacier erupts from the river of blood. The three brothers stare, their mouths agape and utter slack-jawed disbelief. Toru reflects that the ice sheet spell is meant to be much weaker. Ural offers a sweet, apologetic smile, admitting she may have overdone it. Toru grins back, thanking her for saving him from a difficult fight. Under its own immense weight, the newly formed glacier begins to crack. The brothers erupt in cheers, amazed that Ural has frozen the entire river. Ural gives a small, pleased smile, blushing slightly at the high praise. Raoul tells his brother that with this power, they can trust Horace's party. Toru listens intently, sensing the conversation has taken a serious turn. Next, the three brothers share a look, having reached a silent, mutual understanding. Toru cuts to the chase, asking why they were testing his group. Ruralf begins to explain his reasons as they walk back to their campsite. He recounts the rumors he heard of an awesome swordsman and a beautiful mage. Ural looks on, listening to the description of the rumor party. The rumor also mentioned a three-person party traveling with a small child. Sora is flattered to be called beautiful, while the others debate who it was. Blushing, Sora promises to live up to their high expectations of her. Toru interrupts, asking them to please get back to the main topic. Ruralt turns to Toru, his expression becoming deadly serious as he asks if Taru is the legendary adventurer known as the Mud Collector. Sora, Ural, and Mu all turn, waiting for Toru's definitive answer. With a wry smile, Toru scratches his chin and confirms their suspicions. The brothers suddenly grab his arm, their faces a mask of desperation. They bow their heads, pleading for the slime exterminator to help them. Toru looks on as they earnestly beg for his assistance with their problem. There are two parties joined together, walking along the desolate riverbank. Ruralf invites them to their camp, saying it is easier to show them. His brothers are excited to bring such a beautiful guest back with them. Toru asks if there are more people waiting for them at their camp. He senses that helping these men may be the key to breaking the stalemate. As they walk, he wonders why a slime exterminator is needed here. Mu, trailing behind, looks up with a sudden important thought. She tugs on his cloak, getting the attention of her dear Tuchan. She asks if she can get her Hanamaru reward for working so hard. Sora reminds him of his promise of 1 magic stone per day for Mu. Denied by Toru, Mu turns to Sora and asks for a piggyback ride. Toru playfully teases her, saying he thought she was a strong kid. Mu proudly declares her strength and asks to climb on him instead. She plants her foot, preparing to scale her favorite human jungle gym. With surprising agility, she scrambles up Toru's back and over his pack. Perched triumphantly on his shoulders, she announces that she has arrived. The newly allied adventurers walk together towards the brothers' encampment. A thin panel shows the vast cloudy sky above the barren landscape. Sora gasps in wonder as their destination finally comes into view. She explains the vastness of the cleared-out camp before them. Seeing the large cooking fire, she wonders where they find driftwood for fuel. From her high perch, Mu points ahead, asking what the strange structure is. Before them stretches a colossal, half-finished bridge made of stacked rocks. The brothers proudly present the fruit of their labor, much to Sora's shock. A hand carefully places another heavy stone onto the massive structure. Toru realizes their grand ambition, a bridge to the other side of the river. Ruralf admits it has taken 2 long years, and they are only halfway done. On the other side, they explain, is a Wild West where no one can complain. Toru notes that the rock and soil are immune to the corrosive red water. He looks on, a smile of genuine admiration spreading across his face. He clenches his fist, impressed by their incredible determination and grit. He admits it must be hard, and that he would have given up without help. Gugatab proudly declares that their shared purpose is their esprit de corps. Sora and Yura watch the exchange with warm, understanding smiles. Mu asked the brothers if they really stacked all of those stones themselves. She boasts that while she might lose fights, she's an expert at piling rocks. Leaning on Toru's head, she says when it comes to walls, she is better. She asks when they can knock it down, but the brothers refuse in horror. Rarov comments on her scary suggestion as she jumps from Toru's back. Mu runs toward the bridge, asking if she can help, alarming the brothers. They playfully grab the excited child, holding her back from their project. Toru and the women watch the charming scene with quiet amusement. Raralf asks if they sought them out because of their bridge-building project. He says that before they discuss it, he has some introductions to make. He calls out, still holding the wriggling Mu in his arms. He calls over to a figure who is tending the large cooking pot. A young man in heavy armor turns, saying dinner will be ready soon. Ruralf introduces their proud shield-bearer, whom Toru recognizes. The shield-bearer says he saw Toru many times in the goblin's forest. He notes Toru has a bad reputation, a fact Toru readily accepts. Ruralf asks where the twins, Tappa and Tari, have gone off to. He looks toward 2 small sheds, wondering if they're slacking off again. The group agrees to let the brothers handle waking the sleepy twins. The 3 brothers creep quietly toward one of the wooden sheds. They fling open the door, yelling for the twins to wake up and say hello. 2 identical girls, Tappa and Tari, sit up and yawn, introducing themselves. Ruralf explains that the twins are their own separate 2-person party. He proudly presents his entire crew, declaring them the best of the best. The shield-bearer admits he just wound up here while looking for a job. Ruralf asks if they can finally explain the bridge, demanding their secrecy. The shield-bearer interrupts, insisting they should eat while the pot is hot. A delicious-looking stew bubbles away over the crackling campfire. The shield-bearer ladles a hearty portion of the stew into a bowl. At a long table made of barrels, the adventurers begin to serve the meal. Ninurus explains to Mu that the large cabbage leaves are used as plates. He shows her the roasted sausages and salted armor-boar meat. Ruralf arrives with a large barrel, announcing that they have beer too. The 2 parties sit down together, sharing a massive and well-earned feast. Ruralf raises his wooden mug to propose a toast to their honored guests. He toasts the famous mud collector and his surprisingly capable party. The brothers marvel that it is the first time such a beauty has visited. Ruralf declares that tonight they will all feast until they drop. With a great cheer, they all raise their mugs to the 6 gods' blessings. Sora, Mu, and Ural eat with joyous smiles, happy in their new company. As Toru tastes the stew, he is surprised by the rich umami flavor of the fish. The horned adventurer explains it's dry dogfish, gesturing toward their supply, hanging nearby. He says they smoke the fish to avoid getting bored, as they have so many. Toru asks why they don't sell them, but the adventurer explains they spoil too quickly. He adds that the fish are hard to catch, so a large haul would look suspicious. He generously offers to let them take as much as they want home, as a souvenir. Ural gratefully accepts, explaining that fish is a rarity so far from the sea. The horned adventurer then admits that he is truly surprised by Toru's current situation. He observes that Toru has been away from the forest for a while and is no longer alone. His gaze falls on Sora, Mu, and Ural, noting that Toru now is friends. Toru humbly replies that he is new to this area and asked for their guidance. The other adventurers good-naturedly tease their leader, Ruralf, for getting too carried away. Ruralf insists that he was the one who was saved by Toru and his teachings. He expresses his deep admiration for the ambitious bridge they have been building. The horned adventurer agrees, noting that enthusiasm has always been Ruralf's greatest strength. He then asks Toru directly if he really came all this way to help them. The half-finished stone bridge stretches out over the water, a testament to their ambition. Toru smiles, confirming he is grateful for the chance and asks if they will let him help. The horned adventurer confesses he always had the impression that Toru was a loner. He is surprised Toru went along with such silly talk, but Toru says he believes in it. Nearby, Sora, Mu, and you will share a warm, happy moment during the feast. Toru guarantees that the sillier the talk, the better you feel when it's finally done. He raises his mug with a knowing look, catching the adventurer's intrigued gaze. The horned adventurer smiles and clinks his mug against Toru's in a heartfelt toast. As smoke curls from the fire, their shared drink marks the beginning of their friendship. The long table is left with the remnants of their joyous communal meal. Later that night, the camp settles into a quiet peace under the dark sky. Inside one tent, Mu is falling into a deep sleep on Toru's back. In the other tent, Ural, exhausted from the day, is also sound asleep. Sora and Toru lie outside their tents, gazing up at the brilliant star-filled sky. Sora remarks on how pretty the stars are, far more numerous than in the city. The sight reminds her of the beautiful starry nights they saw from their childhood village. Toru lies back, Mu still asleep on him, enjoying the peaceful moment. Sora looks over at him, her expression soft and full of unspoken emotion. She reaches out, gently taking his hand in both of hers. He asks if she is having fun adventuring, and she confirms that she is. The two lie side by side, sharing a quiet, intimate moment under the stars. Sora apologizes for her earlier outburst, admitting she lost her composure. She reflects that it isn't easy to become the person you want to be. She gently touches his face, reminding him of their promise to always adventure together. Looking down at him, her expression is earnest and deeply emotional. She confesses that her greatest wish since waking up is to repay him for saving her. She explains that if she were unhappy, all his past efforts would have been wasted. With a radiant, heartfelt smile, she makes a new promise to him. She asks that one day they can finally be happy together. The long, eventful day on the river of blood comes to a peaceful close.